In a future where emotional androids known as Giftias have a limited lifespan, Tsukasa Mizugaki begins his job at the terminal service and is partnered with a female Giftia named Ayla, who appears distant yet emotionally fragile. As time passes, their professional relationship gradually develops into a deep emotional bond, even though both of them are fully aware that Ayla's remaining time is running out. Living under the shadow of an inevitable goodbye, Tsukasa is forced to come to terms with the painful reality of love, loss, and what it truly means to cherish every single moment they have together. Tsukasa hurried into the elevator. He found himself wondering whether, if his life truly had a limit, he would be able to face it. Inside the elevator, he noticed a beautiful girl. She looked calm, yet tears were quietly falling from her eyes. Their eyes met by chance, and even though Tsukasa did not know her name yet, he began to develop feelings for her. Tsukasa's destination was the main office of PsyCorp. After getting properly dressed, he headed to the information desk to ask where the terminal service department was located. To his surprise, the room was behind the main building, which meant he had to step outside, walk around, and head to the back. When he arrived, Tsukasa was shocked to find that his workplace was much smaller than the main office. He quickly entered and introduced himself to everyone there. The atmosphere felt awkward as everyone looked at him with curiosity. Tsukasa was even more confused when he noticed that there were children working in the office. Not long after, the head of the terminal service department, Takao, introduced himself. He told Tsukasa that if he had any questions about the job, he should ask Kazuki, since she handled field operations. Kazuki questioned Takao, pointing out that there were supposed to be no new staff members that year. It turned out that Tsukasa had been recommended by Director Shinya. Kazuki did not actually mind having a new staff member, but she felt that Takao should have informed the team beforehand, especially since there was no partner assigned to Tsukasa. Tsukasa then asked what kind of work the terminal service department actually did. Apparently, Director Shinya had not explained anything about it to him. Kazuki asked whether Tsukasa knew about the androids developed by Psy. Tsukasa said he was aware of Giftia, androids with artificial souls created by the company, but admitted that he had never seen one before. Takao believed that Tsukasa had probably seen them out on the street without realizing it. There were also Giftia working in the office. Among them were Constance, Sari, and Zack. Suddenly, an employee named Ren startled Tsukasa and introduced himself as a regular human. Tsukasa realized that he could not tell the difference between Giftia and humans. Kazuki explained that a Giftia's lifespan was limited to 81,920 hours, which was about 9 years and 4 months. Once that time was up, their memories and personality would begin to break down. At that point, the terminal service team would visit the owner's home to retrieve the Giftia. The retrieval process was carried out by a team consisting of 1 human and 1 Giftia. Unfortunately, there was no Giftia assigned as Tsukasa's partner. Not long after, a girl named Ayla entered the room. She turned out to be the same girl Tsukasa had seen in the elevator. Takao suggested that Ayla become Tsukasa's partner, but Kazuki objected. Takao insisted that Ayla was highly experienced and the top retriever. Kazuki became upset, believing that sending Ayla into the field was not a good idea. Surprisingly, Ayla accepted the assignment, which left everyone else confused. Tsukasa could not understand why Kazuki was being so overprotective. After changing his clothes, he approached Ayla. They introduced themselves, and Tsukasa asked what she had been thinking about in the elevator earlier. Unfortunately, Ayla did not understand his question. Suddenly, Zack appeared and told Michiru that it looked like Tsukasa liked Ayla since he had been holding her hand the whole time. Michiru called Tsukasa inexperienced and warned Ayla to be more careful, as she believed Tsukasa might be misunderstanding the situation. Tsukasa denied it, but Michiru had already been assigned to train him. The 4 of them soon got into a car and headed to their destination. Along the way, Michiru asked Tsukasa about his age, and it turned out that he was 18 years old. Zack mentioned that Michiru was 17, which annoyed her. She quickly emphasized that even though Tsukasa was older, she was still his senior at work, so he needed to follow her instructions. Zack added that Michiru had only been working there for a year and even brought up how Kazuki had scolded her before. Hearing that, Michiru snapped at Zack. Tsukasa then asked Ayla why both Giftia and humans were required for the job. He learned that their roles were divided into marksman and spotter. The Giftia handled negotiations with the owners, while the human acted as the spotter, supervising their partner's actions. Tsukasa was surprised to realize that his role was mostly observational. Zack commented that Tsukasa had joined them without even understanding the job. Tsukasa then asked Ayla if there was any kind of manual, since he still did not understand the work at all. Ayla handed him a book and explained that the job did not really make someone feel accomplished because in the end, their task was to erase memories. Unexpectedly, the book Ayla gave him turned out to be her personal diary. Not long after that, they arrived at their destination. Their next retrieval target was named Edward. His owners were Hajime and Mari, and the deadline was set for 6 p.m. Tsukasa wondered whether Zack could handle it, but Michiru explained that every Giftia was equipped with strong negotiation skills. Zack rang the doorbell and greeted Hajime and Mari politely. He explained that he had come to retrieve Edward. Hajime and Mari welcomed him warmly and expressed their hope that Zack would take good care of Edward. Tsukasa found it surprising that someone as mischievous as Zack could act so kind and respectful toward others. Before leaving, Edward expressed his gratitude to Hajime and Mari for taking care of him. They would always consider him their son. The farewell was deeply emotional. Michiru then explained to Tsukasa that there were strict rules for retrieving a Giftia. First, the owner had to sign a consent form, and second, the owner had to be present during the retrieval. Zack proceeded to erase Edward's memories, and Hajime and Mari were heartbroken as they watched him leave. Tsukasa asked why the owner needed to be present during the retrieval. Michiru clarified that it was related to protecting privacy. A Giftia's memories contained a lot of personal information about the owner, which could potentially expose their private life. After that, Edward's body was handed over to the authorities. Tsukasa noted that there did not seem to be anything physically wrong with Edward, but Michiru explained that Edward's memories had already become unstable, and his personality would completely disappear within 12 hours. She made sure Tsukasa understood the responsibilities of the job, adding that he would be assigned 3 retrievals that week. Tsukasa thought the job sounded easy, but Michiru called him inexperienced and reminded him that not all owners were willing to sign the consent form. They then headed to the next house. As expected, the owner this time was cold and refused to sign the agreement. The Giftia they needed to retrieve was named Nina, and the owner was Chizu. The deadline was 5 days away. Michiru revealed that she had already visited the house 3 times, but Chizu still refused to sign. Tsukasa asked what would happen if the owner continued to refuse until the deadline. Michiru firmly stated that they would find a way to complete the retrieval no matter what. That day, Michiru decided to step back and assign the task to Tsukasa instead. He was surprised, but Michiru reassured him that Ayala was a veteran and would know how to handle the situation. At that moment, Ayala stood silently in front of the door, looking hesitant. Tsukasa even began to wonder whether she truly understood her job. Michiru believed that Ayala likely did understand her role, although she had never actually seen Ayala in action out in the field. Ayala then asked Tsukasa to ring the doorbell and call for the owner. There was no response, although faint footsteps could be heard inside. Suddenly, Ayala ran off after spotting their target fleeing together with the owner. She immediately moved to intercept them, jumping down from an upper level and landing near a pile of trash as she continued the pursuit. When they returned to the office, Takao scolded them because the neighbors had filed a complaint about the damaged trash area caused during the incident. Michiru explained that they had successfully secured the target, but Takao still reprimanded them, reminding them that they should handle their work more carefully to maintain a good reputation. Not long after, Kazuki showed up and firmly warned Tsukasa not to push Ayala too hard. Tsukasa felt intimidated by Kazuki's tone. Michiru also received a scolding from Kazuki, which made Tsukasa wonder if there was something special about their relationship. Michiru explained that Ayala and Kazuki used to be partners. She realized that the situation had not been Tsukasa's fault and said she would talk to Kazuki about it. Tsukasa was confused by Michiru's sudden change in attitude. According to her, if Tsukasa ended up quitting, it would reflect poorly on her as a trainer. Zack joked that after seeing Ayala in action, Tsukasa must have thought he was in serious trouble. Michiru got annoyed hearing that, but Tsukasa denied it. Starting the next day, Michiru assigned Tsukasa a task to handle on his own. He seemed unsure, especially since the Giftia's owner was known to be difficult to deal with. Suddenly, Ayala approached him and asked him to let her take on the difficult assignment instead. The next day, Ayala and Tsukasa went to Chizu's house. Ayala invited him to have some tea together, but Chizu refused and shut the door again. The following day, they came back once more, and she offered tea along with some cookies, yet Chizu still turned them down, unwilling to waste his time. The day after that, Ayala and Tsukasa returned again, and this time Ayala brought some honey. However, Chizu, still as stubborn as ever, rejected her and refused to listen to anything she had to say. Later that day, Ayala was watering some plants when Tsukasa asked Michiru whether Ayala might be feeling discouraged. Michiru admitted she was not entirely sure. Tsukasa then approached Ayala and asked if the herbal plants she was tending had been grown by her. With a slightly gloomy expression, Ayala explained that the plants she had were chamomile, thyme, and rosemary. Her expression reminded Tsukasa of the time he had run into her in the elevator before. Ayala reassured him that she was fine, but Tsukasa still asked her not to push herself too hard. The deadline to retrieve Nina was the next day, and Tsukasa believed Chizu would be even more stubborn than before. Ayala responded by saying that she had a job and a purpose in life, and that she already had a plan for the next day. The next day, Tsukasa and Ayala returned to Chizu's house again. This time, Chizu shouted that he would never hand Nina over to them. even though Ayala had brought plenty of food. Earlier, Michiru had asked them to handle Nina's retrieval, but Tsukasa realized that they had not made any real progress. He started to think they needed another approach. Suddenly, Ayala climbed over Chizu's fence, making Tsukasa visibly anxious about what she was doing. She managed to get inside and soon met Nina, offering her some lemon verbena tea. Nina commented that Ayala seemed cute. Not long after, Chizu arrived and scolded Ayala for forcing her way into his home, even threatening to call the police. Nina then asked Chizu not to drive Ayala away and suggested that they at least let her take a bath first. Chizu agreed, which made Nina happy, and Ayala quickly went to clean herself up in the bathroom. At that moment, Chizu told Tsukasa that they should leave after Ayala finished. Tsukasa offered an alternative solution, suggesting replacing Nina's OS with a new one in the same body, allowing her to stay with Chizu but with completely different memories and personality. This suggestion angered Chizu. He insisted that Nina was his only family, and no matter what happened, he wanted to stay with her. He even expressed that losing her was something he could not accept. Tsukasa realized that Chizu's feelings were completely valid. After finishing her bath, Nina helped dry Ayala's hair. She often took care of Chizu in the same way, though he would sometimes get upset about it. Nina thought that Chizu simply did not want to admit that he was getting older. She apologized if Chizu had caused any trouble for Ayala and Tsukasa. Ayala then asked whether Nina understood that they had come to retrieve her, and whether she felt afraid of losing her memories and personality. Ayala admitted that she herself would be afraid in that situation. Nina shared that she truly wanted to continue living with her grandmother, but she knew it was not possible. Once the time limit passed, she would begin to malfunction and potentially cause trouble for others, which would only make Chizu sad. Because of that, she knew she could not stay with him forever. Even so, she wished to part with a smile. Unbeknownst to them, Chizu overheard everything Nina said. He then approached Tsukasa and realized that he had been acting selfishly. In the end, Chizu agreed to sign the consent form and asked Ayala to prepare tea for 4 people. Once the tea was served, Nina immediately took a sip and found it truly delicious. After sharing tea together, Nina prepared to leave. Before going, she gently reminded Chizu to dry his hair after bathing, to take his daily medication, and to water the flowers once a day. Nina began to cry, but Chizu reassured her that he would be alright. With a smile, Nina said her goodbye and the retrieval was completed. Ayala and Tsukasa then made their way back to the office. Tsukasa could not stop thinking about how deeply saddened Chizu had looked. He realized that, in the end, he had not been able to do much. Suddenly, Ayala mentioned that she urgently needed to use the bathroom. She had drunk too much tea and could no longer hold it. Tsukasa immediately panicked and urged her to hold on just a little longer. The Sai Terminal Service, also known as the Retrieval Department, has a total of 29 offices worldwide. Tsukasa works at Terminal Service No. 1, which handles the Far East region where the headquarters is located. One day, Takao was preparing to head to a meeting at headquarters. His stomach was hurting badly, so he asked Ayala to make him some tea. Ren suggested that Takao should stop asking Ayala for tea, since she was now Tsukasa's marksman. However, Takao said he was already used to asking her, so it should not be a problem. Not long after, a man walked in and greeted everyone, and Michiru immediately looked embarrassed upon seeing him. Tsukasa asked who the man was, and it turned out to be Yasutaka, one of the spotters who had been working there for nearly 10 years. Kazuki scolded him for leaving his duties behind and asked where he had been all this time. Yasutaka casually replied that he had been on vacation and attending business visits. Kazuki brought up his visit to a female friend's house, but Yasutaka brushed it off and told her not to worry about it, which clearly annoyed her. Ayala brought over the tea that was meant for Takao, but Yasutaka immediately drank it instead. He gently patted Ayala on the head and said that her tea was always the best. Then he greeted Tsukasa, and Tsukasa introduced himself. Yasutaka asked if Tsukasa was the one who had connections and was personally brought in by their boss, Shinya. Hearing that made Tsukasa visibly uncomfortable. Yasutaka became curious about Tsukasa's relationship with Shinya. In the past, Tsukasa had failed to graduate due to appendicitis. Shinya, who was a friend of Tsukasa's father, had given him a chance, but with a condition that if Tsukasa did not bring value to the company, he would be sent back home. Not long after, Sherry, Yasutaka's partner, showed up and assigned him a task. She was clearly upset that he had been absent for several days and demanded an explanation, but instead, Yasutaka invited Tsukasa out for a meal. Sherry quickly pulled him away and dragged him off to complete their work. On another day, Yutaka was working with his Giftgia partner, Max. Suddenly, Ayala approached him and asked him to hand Max over to her. She also told Yutaka not to resist since she and Tsukasa were from Terminal Service. Without hesitation, Yutaka grabbed Max and ran. Tsukasa was confused by Ayala's sudden, intense behavior, but she calmly said she did not understand what he meant. Tsukasa then ran after Yutaka. In the middle of the chase, Ayala tripped and fell. Her nose started bleeding and Tsukasa quickly wiped it for her. Noticing that several people were staring at them with disapproving looks, Tsukasa thought they might need to write an apology letter later. Michiru soon arrived to apologize to the workshop staff for the disturbance. After that, she and the others returned to the office. This incident marked the third time Tsukasa and Ayla had made a mistake, forcing Michiru to step in and apologize on their behalf. She was frustrated, especially since she had assigned them what she thought was an easy task. Yet Tsukasa had failed to obtain a signature 3 times in a row. Michiru believed things would not have gone this way if Tsukasa had trusted Ayla more. She bluntly said that Tsukasa was unreliable and even implied that he had gotten the job without putting in real effort, concluding that he was not useful. Ayla tried to defend him, but Tsukasa chose to apologize instead and promised that he would be more careful moving forward. Back at the office, Michiru was still upset with Tsukasa, but she began to wonder if she had been too harsh on him. Zack commented that Michiru often spoke at length without thinking things through, only to regret it afterward. Yasutaka then asked if she had argued with Tsukasa, but Michiru denied it. He teased that maybe she was feeling conflicted because she liked Tsukasa. Michiru firmly rejected that idea, saying there was no way she and Tsukasa could have that kind of relationship. Yasutaka kept teasing her until she became irritated. Out of nowhere, Kazuki asked Michiru what she thought about Ayla. Michiru replied that Ayla seemed fairly ordinary. That afternoon, Tsukasa was standing by a vending machine buying a drink. Out of nowhere, Kazuki showed up, called out to him, and asked if he could spare some time after work. Tsukasa didn't really have a choice and ended up agreeing. Later that night, Kazuki took him to a bar for some drinks. She found it strange that Tsukasa wasn't drinking at all. He explained that he wasn't old enough to drink yet. When Kazuki asked whether he was getting used to working with Ayla, Tsukasa hesitated. Kazuki quickly picked up on that and figured he was probably unsure about Ayla's way of thinking. Tsukasa then asked Kazuki to tell him more about Ayla, since she used to be Ayla's partner. However, Kazuki said that even if she shared everything, it wouldn't really change anything, and that things between Tsukasa and Ayla were something they had to figure out on their own. She admitted that she felt guilty for pairing Ayla with him, knowing that Ayla was the reason things had become complicated. Even so, Kazuki described Ayla as someone special, and she hoped Tsukasa could grow closer to her. She laughed awkwardly afterward, realizing she might not be in the position to say something like that. Deep down, Kazuki actually wished she herself could be closer to Ayla. Then, half-jokingly and clearly tipsy, she accused Tsukasa of being a lolicon and tightly grabbed his hand. Tsukasa winced in pain and immediately denied the accusation. Kazuki, now visibly irritated, started venting. She mentioned that Takao, the section chief, and Shenya, the boss, wanted to improve efficiency and other things, but none of it had worked out yet. She complained that she still hadn't found any answers and couldn't understand why she had to learn about methods related to memory disposal. Her words left Tsukasa deep in thought. As Kazuki became heavily intoxicated, she suddenly pulled Tsukasa into a tight embrace. Not long after, Yasutaka arrived and greeted them. It turned out he was a regular at the bar. Suddenly, Kazuki collapsed and lost consciousness. Yasutaka was surprised and wondered how much she had drunk. Tsukasa guessed that she simply had a low tolerance since she had only finished 3 glasses. After that, Tsukasa returned to the office. Ring was surprised to see him back and soon said goodbye before heading home. Tsukasa turned on his computer and just then, Ayla sent him a message saying she was training in the unit testing room. Tsukasa immediately headed there. Inside, Ayla was diving in a pool while 2 people observed her through monitors. Tsukasa was surprised that such a facility even existed in the office. He then met an engineer from the terminal service, Eru, along with her partner, Master Mikijiro. Curious, Tsukasa asked what Ayla was doing. Eru and Master Mikijiro explained that they were compiling data to measure Ayla's physical capabilities. At one point, Eru noticed Tsukasa repeatedly glancing at her notes and quickly stopped him. Tsukasa then asked if Ayla trained like that every day. Eru denied it and explained that Ayla had been visiting more often since becoming Tsukasa's partner. She also mentioned that Ayla had seemed more tense lately and needed extra care. Eru hoped Ayla could get some rest, especially after spending so much time serving tea and then suddenly being sent back into fieldwork. Master Mikijiro interrupted Eru, pointing out that she had been talking too much. Eru immediately apologized and returned to recording Ayla's movement data. Not long after, Ayla resurfaced from the pool and noticed Tsukasa greeting him. Tsukasa apologized for watching her without permission, but Ayla said she wasn't trying to hide anything anyway. He asked why she was training so intensely, assuming she was worried about their work. Ayla admitted that ever since returning to field duty, her body hadn't been moving properly. She felt that she was only becoming a burden to Tsukasa. Tsukasa reassured her, saying it was probably just a matter of time before her body adjusted again. However, Ayla explained that it wasn't just during physical tasks. Her movements also felt off when she was negotiating with clients. Tsukasa asked why that was happening, and Ayla suddenly mentioned that she hadn't properly warmed up. Tsukasa didn't quite understand what she meant, and Ayla became visibly embarrassed after saying it. As a marksman, she didn't want to keep causing problems. She even said she would be willing to disband their team if Tsukasa ever got tired of her. In response, Tsukasa quickly finished the tea Ayla had prepared and explained that he believed in following the manual since it was important for work. From that point on, he tried searching for guidance in the manuals, but it seemed pointless because none of them offered specific answers for their situation. In the end, he realized he would just have to adapt to whatever came their way. Tsukasa then offered to handle negotiations himself. Even though a spotter's role was to supervise the marksmen, he believed that since they were a team, they should support each other. He promised to help Ayla until she could adjust again. He encouraged her to give it a try, and Ayla agreed. Tsukasa decided that he would create his own kind of manual moving forward. After that, Ayla excused herself to go to the restroom. Before leaving, she thanked Tsukasa and promised that she would keep trying her best. Meanwhile, Tsukasa quietly encouraged himself to stay determined as well. That night, Michiru could not stop thinking about Tsukasa. She felt like the team made up of Tsukasa and Ayla was not reliable. The next morning, she greeted Ayla and asked what she thought about Tsukasa. Tsukasa gave her a sharp look, and Michiru quickly clarified that she did not mean anything strange by asking. She simply wanted to know if Ayla felt uncomfortable being partnered with him, since lately it seemed like Ayla had been pushing herself too hard. Michiru suggested that Ayla should refuse to be Tsukasa's partner if she truly could not handle it. However, Ayla firmly insisted that there was nothing to worry about, emphasizing that everything that had happened was her own fault and that Tsukasa was not to blame at all. Michiru grew irritated and found it hard to believe that Ayla had no fault whatsoever. Ayla quietly expressed her hope that Michiru would not get angry at Tsukasa. Not long after, Michiru noticed Tsukasa talking with Constance. She walked over and asked what they were discussing. Constance explained that Tsukasa had asked a rather unusual question. He wanted to know what someone should be thinking about during negotiations with a Giftia's owner. Hearing that, Michiru scolded him. She explained that Giftias have hearts, just like their owners, and that their job was not simply about retrieving them. If they treated it that way, they would only cause more pain. The most important thing was to understand the feelings of both the Giftia and the owner. She added that this approach was something their terminal service team followed, even though it often frustrated headquarters, and that Tsukasa needed to put it into practice. Tsukasa thanked her for the advice, and Michiru brushed it off as nothing special. After that, Michiru called Zack to head out for work, but Zack seemed hesitant, pointing out that they had already handled a lot that day and wondering why she was in such a rush. Still, Michiru pulled him along anyway. Before leaving, she apologized to Tsukasa for speaking harshly earlier. Tsukasa was surprised to hear that from her. Meanwhile, Ran and Takao watched the scene from above. Takao commented that Michiru seemed unusually fired up for so early in the day, while Ren suggested that she might just be going through a difficult phase. Takao then found himself thinking about his own daughter, who no longer wanted to talk to him. That night, Tsukasa still had not gone home, as he was preparing something for the next day. Yasutaka remarked that Tsukasa had been working hard, and Tsukasa wondered why Yasutaka was still at the office. Yasutaka joked that Sherry was a demanding boss who kept him busy. He then asked why Tsukasa had not left yet. Tsukasa explained that he was working on his own guidebook. Yasutaka said that sounded impressive, but Tsukasa pointed out that Ayla was actually putting in even more effort than he was. Every day she practiced to regain her speed, but no matter how much she trained, she still seemed stiff. Yasutaka commented that Ayla was incredibly persistent, though she should have realized that her efforts would not change things. Tsukasa asked what he meant by that. Yasutaka then asked if Tsukasa had seen Ayla's physical data, which showed a steady decline. Tsukasa responded that this was exactly why she was training, to try to recover her abilities. Yasutaka explained that Giftias learn just like humans and other androids, but regaining lost speed was not something they were designed to do. They were not programmed to forget, so practice would not reverse the changes. In other words, no matter how hard Ayla trained, she would remain the same. Yasutaka believed that Ayla had already realized this herself. At that same time, Ayla was by the edge of a pool, carefully tying knots in a rope. There were already many knots lined up beside her. Tsukasa watched her from a distance and began to understand that she had been pushing herself so hard because she did not want to depend on him. He remembered her words about promising to do her best. The next day, Tsukasa and Ayla returned to see Yutaka. Yutaka looked frightened and tried to run away, but Tsukasa stopped him and calmly introduced himself as part of the Sai terminal service, there to remind him about Max's retrieval date. He apologized for startling Yutaka during their previous visit. This time, they were able to carry out the negotiation in a calm and friendly manner. After Max finished his work, he agreed to the retrieval. Although visibly saddened, Yutaka was willing to sign the necessary documents. In the end, Tsukasa and Ayla successfully completed their mission that day. Later that afternoon, Yasutaka spoke with Kazuki about their report. Kazuki admitted she had not expected the two of them to perform so well. Then, Yasutaka suddenly brought up something serious. He wondered if Kazuki had told Tsukasa that Ayla only had about 2,000 hours left. One night, Tsukasa was spending time with Ayla, but she had been unusually quiet the whole time. He gently asked if she was hungry or if there was anything she wanted to eat, offering to go get it for her. Instead, Ayla asked if he wanted some tea. Tsukasa declined and suggested they eat together instead. However, Ayla fell silent again, lost in her own thoughts. Tsukasa started to feel that she might be a rather reserved and hard-to-read person. Earlier, Ren had informed Tsukasa that starting that day, he would be living with Ayla. That news had completely caught him off guard. According to Ren, since a spotter and a marksman were partners, the rules required them to live together. Tsukasa had double-checked with Sherry, who confirmed it, mentioning that she shared a room with Yasutaka, even though he rarely came home. Ren then asked Tsukasa to move into the company dormitory where Ayla stayed. Tsukasa could hardly believe that he would begin living with Ayla right away. Meanwhile, Michiru quietly whispered to Kazuki, commenting on Tsukasa's somewhat awkward expression. She felt irritated by how he seemed hesitant about the situation. Kazuki, on the other hand, suspected that Michiru might actually be jealous, though she quickly denied it. Kazuki then asked Michiru to keep an eye on both Tsukasa and Ayla. At that moment, Tsukasa and Ayla exchanged glances. Ayla mentioned that she would show him his room after work. Once their shift ended, the two headed to the company dormitory, a large building used by all departments. Their rooms were located next to Michiru and Zach's. Tsukasa looked nervous as he stepped inside, still unable to process that he would now be living with Ayla. Ayla calmly told him to treat the place like his own home and not worry about her. Tsukasa found her words confusing. Without further explanation, Ayla changed out of her uniform and sat down quietly, deep in thought. Tsukasa tried several times to talk to her and ask what was wrong, but she remained silent. The next morning, Tsukasa went to a cafe for breakfast. While eating, he found himself reading Ayla's diary. One entry, dated April 10th, described an argument she had with Kazuki. In it, Ayla wrote about how intimidating Kazuki could be and even joked that Kazuki might have trouble finding a husband if she kept acting so strict. Tsukasa was surprised at how different Ayla's diary version of events felt compared to reality. Suddenly, Michiru appeared and startled him. Not long after, Zach and Eru joined them. Michiru quickly realized that the book Tsukasa was reading was Ayla's diary. She immediately questioned why he had it and began to suspect that he might have improper intentions toward Ayla. Tsukasa denied it, but Michiru did not believe him. She even asked if he had ever been on a date before. Tsukasa stayed quiet, which only confirmed her suspicion that he lacked experience. She firmly stated that she would not allow him to do anything inappropriate to Ayla. Zach seemed puzzled by Michiru's constant lecturing. Even though she kept scolding Tsukasa, Eru showed support for him. She even offered to give advice on how to make his life with Ayla more enjoyable, jokingly calling it a lucky guy operation. Eru told Tsukasa to quickly write down what she was about to say. She described what she called a golden opportunity, but her suggestion was clearly inappropriate and unrealistic. Michiru immediately interrupted, calling out Eru's idea as ridiculous and telling Tsukasa to stop taking notes. She warned him once again that if he crossed any boundaries with Ayla, she would personally kick him out of the dormitory. After that, Michiru went back to eating her breakfast. Tsukasa began to feel like he was in serious trouble. Eru then said that since she had given him advice, she expected something in return. She asked Tsukasa to convince Ayla to wear a dress that she had made. According to Eru, Ayla had never accepted gifts from anyone before, even though Eru had tried many times without success. Later, Tsukasa returned to his room. For a brief moment, he considered opening the bathroom door, remembering Eru's suggestion, but he quickly stopped himself. Suddenly, Ayla came out of the bathroom, startling him. Tsukasa immediately insisted that he had not seen anything. Ayla did not respond and simply continued getting dressed. At the office, Tsukasa seemed unusually unmotivated. Ren noticed and asked if he was having trouble adjusting to life in the dormitory. Tsukasa admitted that he could not understand what Ayla was thinking. Shortly after, Ayla quietly served him tea and then walked away, leaving him surprised by her distant behavior. Tsukasa later explained to Ren that Ayla tended to ignore him while they were in their room. Ren suggested that Tsukasa should try to show that he was dependable. If he could prove himself as someone she could rely on, Ren believed that Ayla would eventually open her heart to him. While in his room, Tsukasa tried to talk to Ayla, who was sitting quietly by herself. However, she refused to respond to him. Trying to distract himself, he started doing pull-ups and lifting a barbell with enthusiasm. Unfortunately, he lost control and the barbell slipped, crashing into the wall and damaging it. Hearing the loud noise, Michiru immediately came to check on him. She was clearly annoyed when she saw Tsukasa without a shirt and assumed he was acting inappropriately. The next day, Tsukasa shared the incident with his coworkers. Takao warned him to stop putting on those overly macho displays in his room, explaining that what he really needed was better communication. Meanwhile, Rain quietly whispered to Zack, pointing out that Takao himself seemed troubled lately because his daughter found him intimidating. Zack even mentioned how Takao's daughter had asked for her father's laundry to be separated. Despite that, Takao still offered Tsukasa several pieces of advice, confidently assuring him that things would work out if he followed them. Back in the dorm room, Ayala once again sat quietly, lost in thought, while Tsukasa prepared to cook. Earlier, Takao had told him that a man who could cook was impressive. Tsukasa asked Ayala to try his cooking later, feeling confident because he had followed Takao's instructions. However, things quickly went wrong when the flames suddenly flared up. Panicking, Tsukasa shouted, which triggered the automatic fire extinguisher. Hearing the commotion, Michiru rushed over again. Tsukasa, still panicked, asked her how to turn off the system. The following day, Tsukasa told everyone about what had happened. Constance encouraged him not to stay discouraged and asked what he thought he should do next. When Tsukasa turned the question back to him, Constance suggested that being gentle with Ayala was important. Since Ayala enjoyed going out, he believed that becoming a good companion for her trips might help improve their relationship. Later in the dorm, Ayala once again sat quietly before heading to the bathroom. Tsukasa noticed her clothes scattered on the floor and tried to pick them up so she would not trip over them. While doing so, he slipped, rolled, and bumped into the wall. Hearing the noise, Michiru came to check again, only to witness another situation that made Tsukasa seem suspicious in her eyes. The next day, Constance suggested that Tsukasa try giving Ayala flowers. Tsukasa followed the advice, bought some flowers, and gave them to her. However, bee suddenly flew out from the bouquet. Startled, Tsukasa tried to chase it around the room. Once again, the noise brought Michiru over. When she saw the bee land on Tsukasa's nose, she immediately reacted and swatted it away. The next day, Rain suggested that Tsukasa try wearing something different to gain Ayala's trust. Tsukasa ended up wearing a dress made by Aru. He asked Ayala for her opinion on his appearance and even struck a pose like a hero protecting the world. Unfortunately, he lost his balance, hit a table, and fell. As expected, Michiru came to check on the disturbance once again. The following day at the office, Tsukasa told everyone about the previous night. Yasutaka pointed out that Tsukasa might not actually be at fault, since he had not yet learned how to understand a girl's feelings. He suggested a questionable secret technique, but Tsukasa did not seem convinced. That night, Tsukasa tried once more to talk to Ayala, but she simply offered him some tea instead. He nodded and she went to prepare it. Suddenly, Ayala stumbled, and Tsukasa quickly caught her. They ended up in an awkward position as he supported her. For a brief moment, Tsukasa remembered Yasutaka's advice, but he chose not to follow it. Hearing the noise again, Michiru came to check the room. She could not understand why Tsukasa caused disturbances almost every night. Seeing the situation, she became upset and scolded him. The next day, as usual, Tsukasa shared the story with his coworkers. Zack showed understanding, recognizing how challenging it could be for Tsukasa to live together with a girl. Kazuki asked Tsukasa to talk for a bit. She realized that he still hadn't been able to get close to Ayala, and she understood that it wasn't really his fault since Ayala sometimes acted that way around others. Tsukasa admitted that he didn't understand the reason behind it. Kazuki had a feeling that Ayala was trying to act more like a machine than a person. She suggested that Tsukasa invite Ayala to go out during their day off. Tsukasa was sure that Ayala would turn him down, but Kazuki advised him to just be honest about what he wanted to do with her and not force anything. She believed that he and Ayala could actually make a good match. Kazuki said this based on her 6 years of living with Ayala. She also told Tsukasa that she was counting on him, though she added half-jokingly that he should not get too carried away with Ayala. Tsukasa agreed to do his best. While sitting in the car, Tsukasa kept thinking about what he should say to invite Ayala out. Not long after, Ayala arrived and startled him a little. They quickly headed to their next Giftia retrieval location. On the way, Tsukasa asked if she would accompany him the next day to look for a gift for a coworker. To his surprise, Ayala immediately agreed. The next day, they went to the city center. Even though Tsukasa had successfully invited Ayala out, he still had no idea what he should actually do. He found it odd that Ayala was wearing her uniform and asked if she had any other clothes. They then headed into a clothing store. Tsukasa asked Ayala to try on some outfits, and she questioned why she needed to do that. He explained that his coworker had a similar size to her. Inside the fitting room, Ayala struggled to put on the clothes and asked Tsukasa for help. He was caught off guard when he saw her tangled up in the outfit. Shortly after, a store clerk came over. By accident, Ayala ended up tearing the clothes, and the clerk asked them to pay for the damaged item. Ayala apologized for causing trouble for Tsukasa. He brushed it off, saying it wasn't a big deal. Still, she sincerely apologized, saying she often felt like she was not useful. Later, while riding the elevator, Tsukasa asked if she remembered the first time they met there and what she had wanted to buy back then. Ayala then led him to a herbal plant shop. Tsukasa asked if she wanted to buy something, but she declined. He started thinking that maybe a herbal plant would make a good gift. When he asked Ayala to recommend the best one, she said her opinion didn't really matter and instead asked about his coworker. Tsukasa described the coworker as someone who didn't talk much, tended to be alone at home, and barely ate, to the point where he was not even sure if she ate at all. However, he also mentioned that she was very good at the things she liked. Ayala commented that the person sounded a bit difficult, but Tsukasa laughed it off and disagreed. In the end, Ayala picked a herbal plant that suited the coworker's personality. After finishing their shopping, Tsukasa thanked her and Ayala said she was glad she could be helpful. After that, Tsukasa invited Ayala to an amusement park. When they arrived, the place was packed with people. Ayala wondered why they went there when they had already found the gift. Tsukasa admitted that the gift was actually meant for her. Hearing that, Ayala asked if that meant she was really that troublesome. Tsukasa quickly denied ever thinking that. She then asked why he wanted to give her a gift. Tsukasa explained that it was to celebrate them as partners. Ayala responded that while they were indeed partners, their relationship was strictly professional. Tsukasa asked her not to see it that way because he wanted to spend time with her outside of work and create meaningful memories together. Suddenly, Ayala said she couldn't continue with that idea, explaining that she was not created to spend time like that with humans. She became emotional and decided to go home. Tsukasa felt guilty and couldn't understand why she reacted that way. He found himself confused about how to grow closer to her. Back in the dorm room, Tsukasa saw Ayala quietly lost in thought. He wondered if she had always preferred being alone, especially since Eru had once mentioned that Ayala had never received a gift from anyone. Tsukasa then gave her a keychain he had bought at the amusement park. Ayala looked surprised as she accepted it. Tsukasa told her that she didn't have to keep it if she didn't want to. Ayala apologized for leaving him earlier. Tsukasa then asked her to make him some tea and sit with him for a while. That night, even after Tsukasa had fallen asleep, Ayala continued to look at the gift he had given her. One morning, Tsukasa woke up first, and not long after that, Ayala woke up too. He greeted her with a cheerful good morning, and to his surprise, she responded. Wanting to make sure he was not imagining things, he greeted her again, and she replied once more. Tsukasa could not hold back his excitement. He started shouting and jumping around because it was unusual for Ayala to respond to him like that in their dorm room. Michiru came in and immediately told him to quiet down. Tsukasa eagerly told her that Ayala had just responded to his greeting. He admitted how happy he felt, but Michiru suddenly realized that Ayala was in the middle of changing her clothes. Without hesitation, she kicked Tsukasa out of the room. Later that morning, Tsukasa could not stop smiling to himself. Michiru told him to stop daydreaming about Ayala changing, but he quickly denied thinking about anything like that. Zack then chimed in, saying that he had seen Tsukasa reading a strange book the day before, something like a guide to making someone fall in love. Hearing that made Michiru visibly irritated. Tsukasa admitted that he had bought the book, but it had not been very helpful. Michiru wondered out loud how Ayala could still be okay living with someone like Tsukasa. Unexpectedly, Ayala calmly said that she did not mind living with him. Zack commented that it seemed like Tsukasa and Ayala were getting closer, and he grew curious about what might have happened between them. His teasing only made Michiru more annoyed, and she ended up venting her frustration by telling Tsukasa to clean up his desk. Even she seemed confused about why the situation bothered her so much. Not long after, Kazuki arrived to assign their tasks. That day, they had 9 clients to handle. Kazuki asked Michiru to take care of Minerva and Carl, warning her to be careful since Minerva's owner might cause trouble. She then asked Sherry about Yasutaka. Sherry replied that he had been difficult to reach but promised to pass along the message later. Tsukasa was assigned to retrieve Marcia, and he accepted the task without hesitation. Michiru questioned why the job was not given to her, but Kazuki explained that she wanted Tsukasa to gain more experience. She also reminded him to report immediately if he ran into any problems. Ren then shared information from upper management about the black market becoming active again. He urged everyone to stay cautious while carrying out their duties. Kazuki added that the criminals were using the name of the terminal service as a cover to illegally retrieve Giftia units. Even though it was against the law, the police had not been able to catch them. Rain reminded the team to report anything suspicious right away, and Takao emphasized the importance of working efficiently. Tsukasa and Ayala then headed to their destination. Along the way, Ayala explained about children who had lost their biological parents and were raised by androids. In this case, the owner of the Giftia named Marcia was a boy named Soda. In many ways, Marcia had taken on the role of a mother figure for him. When they arrived at the apartment, Marcia greeted them warmly. Tsukasa introduced himself and Marcia immediately hugged Ayla after meeting her. She invited them inside and mentioned that Sota had not returned from school yet. She then offered them some tea while they waited. Looking at the photos on the wall, Tsukasa noticed how close Marcia and Sota seemed. Marcia described Sota as a somewhat spoiled child. She quietly expressed concern about whether he would be able to live independently after she was gone. Sota's biological parents had passed away 3 years earlier. According to Marcia, they had been wonderful people who even treated her like part of the family. She often went shopping with Sota's mother during holidays, picking out clothes for Sota and his father, since his father was not very good at choosing outfits. Sota's mother had a strong presence and was well known around the neighborhood, while his father was equally impressive in sports. He would often take Marcia and Sota out for jogging together. Whenever Sota started to get tired, his mother would suddenly appear with a warm smile and a basket of snacks. At that moment, Sota came home and asked why Marcia kept talking about those memories again. Marcia happily greeted him, but Sota looked at Tsukasa and Ayla with suspicion and asked who they were. When Marcia explained that they were from the terminal service, Sota told them not to believe her, claiming that she was lying. Tsukasa calmly asked Sota to sign the agreement papers. Sota questioned whether it would be enough if he just wrote his name. Then, in a cold tone, he told Tsukasa to hurry up and take Marcia away, saying that he no longer needed her. Tsukasa was taken aback by his words. Marcia gently reminded Sota to be polite to their guests, but he refused to listen and said that he did not need to hear anything from her anymore. He snatched the agreement papers and signed his name, adding that Marcia was just a giftia. Tsukasa quickly pulled the papers back and stated that he could not accept a signature given with that kind of attitude. Sota, clearly upset, insisted that giftia could not be trusted and that they only ended up hurting people. Marcia firmly reminded Sota that his father once said that if he did not care about others, he would never find happiness. Sota brushed it off, since he did not know anything about his parents in the first place. He believed Marcia's stories about them were nothing more than lies, and he even doubted her sincerity when she said she would never leave him. Without another word, Sota walked away from them. Marcia admitted that he had been acting that way ever since he learned about his remaining time. When Tsukasa arrived at the office, he shared the situation with Michiru. In her opinion, Sota seemed to be going through an identity crisis. She did not blame Marcia, but she understood that hearing about a time limit must have made Sota realize that Marcia was a giftia, not his real family. Tsukasa realized that this was likely what led Sota to believe that everything about his parents was a lie. Michiru added that losing someone you truly trust can feel terrifying. When Tsukasa asked what they could do, Michiru suggested that the solution might be helping Sota believe in what he truly loved. She even offered to help Tsukasa, which made him very grateful. However, when Ayla suddenly arrived with tea, Michiru abruptly changed her mind, leaving Tsukasa confused about what had just happened. On that same day, a meeting was being held by the leader, Shinya, along with the heads of the terminal services. He acknowledged that most of them had been working hard to reduce expenses, except for Takao, the head of terminal service No-Own. Shinya pointed out that Takao's department had spent nearly 5 times more than the others. Takao promised to improve efficiency and explained that the budget had been used to enhance service quality and employee wages. Shinya was not interested in hearing any more explanations. He instructed Takao to prepare a detailed route plan before the next meeting and warned that if there was no improvement, he would take action himself. As the meeting ended, the other department heads quietly recognized how difficult Takao's position was and that his role could be at risk. Later that day, Tsukasa and Ayla returned to Sota's house and looked through his family photo album. They came across pictures from Sota's 5th birthday, and it turned out that the next day would be his birthday again. Marcia explained that the strawberry tart in the photo had been made by Sota's mother, and it tasted so good that Sota had almost finished it by himself. Tsukasa wondered how Sota could not remember any of it when the photos still existed. Marcia thought it might be because Sota had gone through emotional shock. After losing both of his parents, he had been in denial, but Marcia kept trying to make sure he did not believe those memories were fake. Not long after, Tsukasa found a strawberry tart recipe tucked inside the album. Marcia was thrilled since she had never figured out how to make it before. Tsukasa recalled Michiru's advice about helping Sota believe in what he loved. He then told Marcia that he and Ayla would help make a strawberry tart for Sota's birthday the next day. Marcia happily agreed with the idea and planned to decorate the entire room, recreating the warm smiles seen in the photos. She even asked Ayla to show her a smile, saying that Ayla would look even sweeter if she smiled more. Back in her dorm room, Ayla quietly reflected on what Kazuke had once said, that she would never forget the memories they shared while working together, but that they could no longer be partners and that it was for the best. Ayla then tried to smile and observed her reflection in the mirror. The next day, Ayla asked Tsukasa if their plan would really make Sota happy. She was ready to follow whatever decision Tsukasa made. Soon after, Sota left the house for school. while Tsukasa and Ayala prepared to carry out their plan. On his way, Sota noticed a young child happily spending time with his mother. Michiru approached him and introduced herself. She explained that she had also been raised by a Giftia, so she understood how he felt. She encouraged Sota to trust his memories, especially those from the past 3 years, believing that he still remembered them. However, Sota ran off, insisting that those memories were fake and that he could not trust them. Meanwhile, Tsukasa, Ayala, and Marcia started their cooking session. Marcia asked Tsukasa about his experience in the kitchen. He admitted that just the day before he had tried making a flambe but ended up burning it. Not long after, the doorbell rang and Marcia quickly went to answer it. Tsukasa and Ayala worked together to prepare the ingredients for the cake. Tsukasa carefully measured the butter on a scale. Soon after, Michiru arrived and immediately picked up the recipe. She seemed unsure about Tsukasa's abilities and worried that he might burn the cake again. Tsukasa was surprised to see both Michiru and Zack, especially since Michiru had refused to help the day before. She explained that she had changed her mind and decided to help Marcia instead. Marcia felt relieved, especially since Tsukasa did not seem very confident in cooking. Michiru quickly took charge, measuring and mixing the ingredients with ease. Marcia noticed how skilled she seemed and learned that Michiru had been cooking since she was young, mainly because she used to cook for her father. Michiru then started giving instructions. She told Tsukasa to sift the flour, while Ayala and Zack were asked to clean the strawberry stems and decorate the room. Tsukasa sifted the flour a bit too aggressively, which made him start sneezing. Michiru grew irritated, calling him a beginner and scolding him before showing him the proper technique. As she guided him, her face turned slightly red while holding his hand, leaving her confused about the unfamiliar feeling she experienced. She quickly brushed it off and scolded him again for holding her hand. Once the batter was ready, Marcia placed it in the oven. They all took a break while waiting for it to bake. Tsukasa mentioned that Michiru's arrival had really saved them. Michiru responded that as an android child, she could not just stand by and do nothing. Tsukasa then asked what she meant when she said she understood Sota's feelings. Michiru explained that her father, whom she called her guardian, had been retrieved 3 years ago. Her situation was the opposite of Sota's. She had been raised by her father alone for many years and had done everything she could to stay with him. Her father had become what was known as a wanderer. After 81,920 hours, Giftia begin to lose their personality and memories. Within about 10 hours after that, they rely only on instinct. In some cases, they may unintentionally harm humans. Even though their memories and personalities fade, their physical abilities remain, causing them to wander aimlessly. That is why they are called wanderers. Retrieving a Giftia after they become a wanderer is considered a very difficult and distressing situation, which is why retrieval must be done on time to prevent it. Michiru was surprised to see Tsukasa tearing up. He apologized for only just learning about it, but she told him to forget what she had shared. At that moment, Zack commented to Ayala that Michiru seemed like a caring guardian figure. He also noted that she had been the one to step in and help Tsukasa, suggesting that she might have been a bit too eager to act like his senior. Suddenly, Ayala asked Zack about how her smile looked. Zack responded honestly, saying that it came off as a bit unsettling. After that, they finished decorating the room and arranged the strawberries on top of the tart. Later that afternoon, Sota returned home. He was surprised to see the celebration Marcia and the others had prepared. He insisted that he had never asked for a birthday celebration. His emotions quickly turned into frustration, as he knew that even though Marcia had done all this, she would eventually have to leave him. When he saw the strawberry tart, memories from 3 years ago came rushing back. Sota began to cry as he ate the cake. He said that it did not taste good at all and that his mother's version had been much better. He then apologized for calling Marcia a liar earlier. Marcia gently told him that even though she would not always be there physically, they would always be connected. She reassured him that she, along with his parents, would always care about him. Hearing that, Sota thanked her and hugged her tightly. The day before the scheduled retrieval, a man came to Sota's apartment to pick up Marcia. He explained that he was replacing Tsukasa and Ayala, who were currently occupied with other duties. Sota appeared uneasy and intimidated in the man's presence. That day, Marcia had just finished shopping. With only 1 day left before her scheduled retrieval, she looked excited to spend her final moments with Sota. Suddenly, an unknown man approached her and used a weapon to incapacitate her. At the same time, Tsukasa received a call from Sota. He asked about Marcia's condition, but Sota explained that she still had not returned from shopping. Earlier, that same man had come to Sota's apartment asking about Marcia. He claimed to be from the service terminal and said he was replacing Tsukasa to pick her up. Sota sounded worried, clearly anxious about her safety. Ayala suspected that the man was likely connected to the black market. At that moment, Marcia only had 24 hours remaining. Sota asked if the man was Tsukasa and Ayala's colleague and expressed his hope that Marcia would be brought home safely. Tsukasa explained that the man had most likely deceived Sota and abducted Marcia, which left Sota in shock. He reassured him not to worry, promising that he and Ayala would find her and bring her back. Tsukasa asked Sota to stay at home and wait. After that, he contacted Kazuki and the others to inform them of the situation and asked everyone to split up to search for Marcia. Ren mentioned that if Marcia were to become a wanderer, it would be the first case in 3 years. However, Kazuki remained confident that it would not happen, since they still had 24 hours left. Takao suggested that they should report the situation to the director. Takao immediately contacted Director Shinya to report the issue. Shinya then instructed his assistant to reach out to our security. He told Takao and the others to continue searching while he tried to handle things from his side. Meanwhile, Tsukasa and Ayala split up to search around the city center, but they could not find her. Tsukasa grew increasingly worried. Ayala suggested they double-check everything to be sure and reminded him to stay patient during the search. Tsukasa admitted that Michiru's story kept lingering in his mind, prompting him to ask Ayala what she knew about wanderers. Ayala explained that wanderer cases were extremely rare and that she believed it would not happen to Marcia, encouraging Tsukasa not to think negatively. Not long after, Michiru and Zack arrived, but they had not found any leads either. Everyone split up again to continue the search. Tsukasa entered several shops and asked customers if they had seen Marcia. Michiru and Zack searched along the streets, while Constance, Ren, Yasutaka, and Sherry continued looking in other areas. Tsukasa and Ayala spent the entire night searching around residential neighborhoods. Meanwhile, Sota remained at home, waiting anxiously. The next morning, Constance and Kazuki picked up Tsukasa and Ayala. Tsukasa ate quickly, and Kazuki assumed they had not slept at all, even though she had advised them to rest. Tsukasa insisted that he was fine, and Ayala said the same. Kazuki could not understand how they were still going. Tsukasa then asked where they were heading. Constance explained that he had gathered information from several sources about the possible location of the black market. Kazuki added that their wide network allowed them to obtain such leads. Before long, a group of people blocked their path. One of them informed Constance that the area was closed and told him to turn back. They were from R Security, just as Kazuki had expected. R Security was a private security company that worked in partnership with Sai. Kazuki questioned why the area was being restricted and pointed out that they likely did not have proper authorization. They insisted that she comply, but Kazuki firmly stated that she had business there. She even demanded that they call their leader. Tsukasa tried to calm her down as the situation grew tense. Hearing the commotion, the leader of R Security arrived. It turned out that he knew Kazuki and was surprised to see her. The leader, Shinonome, had not met Kazuki in 3 years. Kazuki asked if R Security was getting involved again for the same old reasons. Shinonome explained that their objective was only to capture the illegal retriever and that they had no concern for the abducted Giftia. Kazuki then asked how much information he had gathered. Shinonome seemed reluctant to share, but Kazuki pressured him by hinting that she could bring up his past performance from 3 years ago. Hearing that, Shinonome finally ordered his subordinates to show the map. Kazuki was surprised by his cooperation and remarked that it was no wonder he had been promoted so quickly. According to the information network, the black market hideout was believed to be somewhere around that area. All access points had already been sealed off, so no one could enter or leave. Kazuki was convinced that Marcia had to be somewhere inside. Shinonome questioned whether Kazuki was certain that the Giftia he was looking for did not have a transmitter. Kazuki responded that regulations about android protection and similar policies were, in his view, a violation of human rights. Shinonome found it strange that human rights would even apply to machines. Not long after that, Tsukasa and the others prepared to head out into the field. At that moment, Michiru found herself recalling a painful memory from 3 years earlier, during the retrieval of her father. Yasutaka explained that if a Giftia became a wanderer, it would turn into a serious problem, especially since their limiter would no longer function. Sherry added that a wanderer could treat something as dangerous as a car like it was just a toy. To capture a wanderer, they would either need to remove the limiter from a Giftia or use a weapon known as a program-destroying software, which only a spotter was authorized to handle. A single shot from that weapon was enough to completely shut down all of a Giftia's functions. It worked like a computer virus, meaning it would not harm any humans. Tsukasa asked whether a Giftia could be repaired after being hit by that shot, but Sherry explained that it was impossible. Tsukasa looked visibly shaken hearing that, though Yasutaka reminded him that it was only a last resort. For now, their priority was finding Marcia. Kazuki then informed everyone that they would be working together with R Security. Hearing this immediately upset Michiru, who could not understand why they had to cooperate with them. Kazuki told Michiru to stay strong and explained that R Security's goal was only to apprehend illegal retrievers. He made it clear that he would not allow R Security to lay a hand on Marcia. Kazuki planned to gather more information from Riho at R Security and reassured everyone that they would bring Marcia back safely. With that, the team split up to search for her. Before they left, Kazuki suddenly asked Tsukasa if he truly trusted Ayla. Constance then wondered if Kazuki thought Ayala should no longer return to fieldwork. Kazuki admitted that he had a feeling the incident from 3 years ago might repeat itself. Michiru still could not hide her frustration about having to work with our security. Tsukasa asked why she felt so strongly about them. Michiru explained that our security treated Giftia like mere objects, and in the past, they had even caused serious injury to Kazuki's leg. Tsukasa then asked if this had anything to do with her father. Zack stepped in and told Tsukasa to stop pretending he did not understand. Michiru bluntly called Tsukasa clueless and began explaining what had happened. Back then, Kazuki had been assigned to retrieve Michiru's father after he became a wanderer. However, Michiru refused to let her father be taken, so she ran away with him. When Kazuki arrived to carry out the retrieval, members of our security suddenly showed up and ordered them to step away from the Giftia. Kazuki insisted that he would handle the situation himself and asked them not to make things worse. Instead, our security pulled them back, creating more tension. In the chaos, Michiru's father lost control and began to act aggressively. Kazuki protected Michiru, but his leg was badly injured in the process. At the same time, our security opened fire and forcibly shut down her father. Michiru realized that everything that happened back then was partly her fault. Still, she believed that if our security had not interfered, things might not have ended that way. She could not understand why they were being forced to work with them again. Tsukasa promised that he would do everything he could, especially for Soda's sake, and that he would bring Marcia back safely. He believed that Kazuki's true priority was to find Marcia and prevent a tragedy like what happened to Michiru's father from happening again. They all split up to continue the search. Unexpectedly, Soda followed them to the location. At that moment, the clock showed 1:00 p.m., meaning Marcia's time limit had already run out. Yasutaka, along with our security, discovered the hideout and found the illegal retriever already dead. There were marks of a struggle on his face, which indicated that Marcia had already turned into a wanderer. Kazuki informed the others that Marcia had escaped and become a wanderer. Because of that, he withdrew the order to bring her back alive. He instructed everyone to do whatever it took to stop her. Kazuki was certain that our security would attempt to destroy Marcia, so at the very least, he wanted the terminal service team to take responsibility and be the ones to bring her back with their own hands. Tsukasa could not understand how things had ended up like this. Ayala asked him to stay quiet if they found Marcia, because she wanted to handle everything herself. She told him to just do what he could while stopping Marcia was her responsibility. The two of them then ran off to search for her. Tsukasa felt frustrated, especially since he had promised to bring Marcia back safely. Suddenly, Marcia's body lunged forward and crashed into Ayala, knocking both of them to the ground. Tsukasa was shocked to see Marcia, but Ayala quickly warned him not to come any closer. He remembered what Michiru had once said, that a Giftia who had passed 81,920 hours would begin to lose her personality and memories. Ayala prepared her weapon and stood her ground. She believed that Marcia's remaining memories were causing her pain. Out of nowhere, Soda appeared and called out to Marcia. Tsukasa was confused about why Soda was there. Marcia seemed sad for a moment, but her expression suddenly turned unsettling. She cried out and knocked Ayala down again, then moved toward Soda. Soda froze when he saw her condition. Tsukasa told Soda to run, but before he could react, Marcia grabbed him and ran off with him. Tsukasa immediately reported to the others that he had found Marcia in District B4 and that she had taken Soda. Kazuki was shocked to hear that Soda was involved and quickly asked about Ayala's condition. Tsukasa admitted that she was not doing well. Kazuki told them to hold on, saying she would send technicians right away. She also reminded Tsukasa not to let Ayala push herself too hard. Michiru and Zack quickly headed toward District B4. Tsukasa grew worried about Soda, knowing they could not just stand there and wait. Ayala insisted that she was fine and asked him to go after Marcia together, but Tsukasa refused to let her overexert herself. When Ayala tried to stand, she stumbled and nearly fell. She did not want to hold him back, so she asked him not to take over her role, reminding him that they were a team. Tsukasa gently supported her as they continued searching for Marcia. He began to realize that Ayala truly wanted to make Soda happy. From Ayala's perspective, having beautiful and joyful memories did not always lead to a happy ending. The more precious a memory was, the more painful and frightening it could become, both for the one leaving and the one left behind. Tsukasa finally understood that this fear was what made Ayala hesitate to create memories in the first place. Meanwhile, Kazuki stopped Shinonome, who had been monitoring the Wanderer situation. Shinonome insisted it was his responsibility, but Kazuki refused and asked him to give the terminal service team a chance to handle it. Shinonome protested, but Kazuki immediately brought up the injury in his leg as leverage. Annoyed that she kept mentioning it, he reluctantly agreed to give them 30 minutes. Tsukasa and Ayala eventually found Marcia again. Ayala looked weak and Tsukasa stepped forward, ready to handle the situation himself. Ayala warned him that it was dangerous, but Tsukasa told her not to worry. He approached Marcia and tried to talk to her. He promised that he would save her and protect Sota. He hoped that if even a small part of her memories remained, she would listen. He reminded her of how she had always protected Sota and stayed by his side. Marcia seemed to struggle as those memories surfaced. Tsukasa reached out his hand and asked her to take it, hoping to bring everything to a peaceful end. Just as it seemed like he might succeed, Sota suddenly regained consciousness and called out to her. In that instant, Marcia's behavior shifted again, and she lifted Sota off the ground. Tsukasa was shaken as he saw Sota struggling and in distress. Left with no other choice, he raised his weapon and aimed at Marcia. It broke his heart, especially knowing how meaningful their shared memories had been, but he felt forced to act. Just as he pulled the trigger, Ayla suddenly jumped in front of him. The next day, Ayla did not come to the office as usual. Kazuki and Ayla used to be on the same team. They were very close and even went to an amusement park together. One day, during a mission to capture a wanderer, Ayla suddenly weakened. Without waiting for backup, Kazuki chose to go into the field alone. Afterward, Ayla felt deeply sad and guilty when she learned that Kazuki had been injured during the capture, to the point that he had to undergo an amputation. After Kazuki recovered, Ayla apologized to him while they were talking at the amusement park. Kazuki said that he would never forget the memories they shared while working together. But he also made it clear that he did not want to be Ayla's partner anymore. After that, he left their dorm room, leaving Ayla visibly heartbroken. On that day, Ayla woke up in the infirmary. At the same time, Kazuki thanked the terminal service team for their help in handling Marcia's case. Even though the outcome was difficult, at least they had managed to prevent civilians from getting involved in the incident. Takao relayed a message from Director Shinya, saying that they were able to track down the black market's hideout thanks to assistance from our security. Kazuki said that he could not blame Tsukasa and Ayla for what had happened, since it was an accident. Earlier, Tsukasa had been forced to shoot Marcia's body in order to protect Sota, who was being choked. Marcia weakened and collapsed, and not long after that, Ayla also lost consciousness. Tsukasa kept thinking about the incident, which left him lost in thought. Kazuki explained that even though Tsukasa and Ayla were not at fault, the situation was still considered a loss for the team. Because of that, Tsukasa was assigned to office work until Ayla was able to return to the field. From that day on, Tsukasa spent his time handling office duties. At night, he went to the infirmary to stay by Ayla's side. When Ayla woke up, she saw Tsukasa asleep nearby. Mikijiro approached and mentioned that Tsukasa had insisted on staying with her, describing him as stubborn. After checking the monitor, Mikijiro said that Ayla would be able to move again the next day, although her treatment would still take a few more days. After Mikijiro left, Ayla looked at Tsukasa as he slept. She remembered Kazuki's words about no longer wanting to be her partner. Gently, she brushed Tsukasa's head. Not long after, Tsukasa woke up thinking it was already morning. Ayla told him it was still late at night and suggested that he should rest in the dorm instead. Tsukasa expressed how relieved he was that Ayla was okay. She had been asleep for 2 full days, and he mentioned that Mikijiro had warned him not to get too close to her. Still, Tsukasa admitted that he had been very worried. Ayla asked about Marcia and Sota, and Tsukasa explained that Kazuki and the others had helped him handle everything. Ayla apologized for not being able to do anything and asked if Tsukasa was alright. Tsukasa thanked her for worrying about him. He smiled and said that he was fine. Ayla could not understand how he was still able to smile because the memory of what happened to Marcia and Sota kept replaying in her mind that night. The next day, Eru reminded Ayla that she had not fully recovered yet and asked her to return to the infirmary after work. Eru was very enthusiastic and said she would take great care of Ayla. That morning, Ayla returned to the office and everyone greeted her warmly. Takao asked her to prepare some tea and apologized for always assigning her that task. Not long after, Tsukasa arrived and smiled when he saw Ayla back at work. Suddenly, Yasutaka invited Tsukasa to hang out that evening, joking about making the night fun. Tsukasa replied that he was still underage. Sherry scolded Yasutaka for making such remarks so early in the day. Michiru commented that both Yasutaka and Tsukasa were being inappropriate and warned Zack not to follow their example. Yasutaka grumbled that the girls in the office were difficult to deal with. When he noticed Ayla looking at him, he wondered if she might actually like him. Ayla calmly responded that she had not heard anything he said. Hearing that, Yasutaka dramatically claimed that his heart was shattered. He kept trying to persuade Tsukasa to join him later, while Tsukasa asked him to let it go. Ayla continued watching Tsukasa, so distracted that she accidentally spilled the tea and soaked Takao's documents. After finishing up the cleaning, Ayla returned to her seat. Tsukasa greeted her with a warm smile, mentioning that it felt a little strange since they had gone to the office separately that day, even though they had always gone together before. Out of nowhere, Ayla commented that Tsukasa's smile was beautiful. That caught both Tsukasa and Michiru off guard. Tsukasa looked visibly embarrassed by the compliment, while Michiru seemed genuinely confused. Later, in the student infirmary, Michiru asked Ayala if Tsukasa had done anything unusual to her. She assured Ayala that she would be on her side no matter what. Eru even added that she would not forgive Tsukasa if he had been teasing Ayala. The two of them urged Ayala to explain everything. Ayala admitted that she had been thinking about Tsukasa all the time, and without realizing it, she had started paying attention to him wherever he went, even though she had never really noticed him like that before. Michiru could not quite understand what was going on, but Eru confidently said that it was called love. Hearing that left Michiru shocked. Eru promised that she would help Ayala. In her opinion, they needed to observe Tsukasa more closely to understand his lifestyle. Michiru called it stalking, but Eru brushed it off, saying it was only natural to want to know everything about someone you liked. She even mentioned that she had gone through something similar herself. Eru then made a plan to start observing Tsukasa the next day. Michiru acted uninterested, but when the time came, she still ended up joining Eru and Ayala. The three of them watched Tsukasa from the rooftop using binoculars. Eru wondered what Tsukasa was reading. Ayala believed it was her diary. Eru found it strange that Ayala would let him read something so personal. Ayala explained that she had lent it to him because Tsukasa wanted to learn more about terminal service, and she believed reading it would help him understand things faster. Eru pointed out that a diary usually revealed a lot about a person, and she admitted she was curious enough to want to read it herself. Ayala, however, felt that her diary was not particularly interesting. Suddenly, Eru's binoculars were knocked out of her hands by an unexpected hit. It turned out that Sherry was the one responsible. She had spotted someone watching the office and suspected it might be a stalker, possibly even someone connected to the black market who could pose a serious threat. Ren commented that if it were truly someone dangerous, the main headquarters would likely be the real target. Yasutaka noted that Sherry was being extremely cautious. Sherry simply replied that her alertness was influenced by Yasutaka. Eru was shocked by what had just happened, and Ayala did not expect Sherry to be even more intimidating than Kazuki. Still, Eru refused to give up over something like that. She quickly came up with another plan to keep observing Tsukasa and invited Ayala to join her again. Michiru felt like she wanted to stay out of it this time. From then on, Eru and Ayala kept following Tsukasa wherever he went. They watched him at a cafe and even peeked in while he was helping Constance in the storage room. Constance warned Tsukasa to be careful because the load he was carrying was heavy. As expected, the box filled with documents turned out to be quite heavy. That night, Ren and Tsukasa accompanied Kazuki to a bar for drinks. Kazuki encouraged Tsukasa to drink as well, but he chose to have juice instead. Not long after, Ren told Tsukasa that he needed to head home right away because he was worried his wife might get upset. Kazuki became irritated and scolded Tsukasa for sounding too preachy. Eru and Ayala were there, quietly watching everything unfold. Tsukasa eventually returned to his dorm room late at night, but Eru and Ayala continued to follow him. Things took an awkward turn when Tsukasa suddenly shouted in shock after noticing Eru in the men's bathroom. Sherry immediately dragged Eru back to her room. Michiru could not believe things had escalated like that, and she told Ayala that she should not have gone along with Eru's plan. Ayala, however, said that Eru had genuinely been trying to help her. Michiru then asked why Tsukasa had been on Ayala's mind so much. Ayala admitted that she did not fully understand it herself, but she started feeling that way after the incident involving Marcia. Michiru reflected that Tsukasa did seem strong in situations like that. Ayala wondered if she had forgotten something important, and she questioned whether humans were naturally capable of forgetting things so easily. She also could not understand what Tsukasa had been feeling at that time. Michiru then explained that she and Kazuki had gone to see Soda to talk about Marcia's situation, but Tsukasa had already been there. Even though he was supposed to be handling office work, Tsukasa had chosen to go there instead, just to personally apologize to Soda. When Tsukasa met Soda, Soda asked where Marcia had gone. He felt upset because he had not even gotten the chance to say goodbye to her. As Soda dropped the photos filled with their memories, he questioned whether Tsukasa had not promised to bring Marcia back to him. Tsukasa broke down in tears and apologized, while Soda cried loudly, unable to accept that Tsukasa had not reunited him with Marcia. After that, Kazuki scolded Tsukasa and told him to stop getting involved. Michiru called Tsukasa foolish, believing that he would never forget what had happened, and maybe he did not even want to forget it. Ayala wondered why Tsukasa kept smiling despite everything. Michiru admitted she did not know either, but thought it might be because he was hurting. Ayala was a little surprised to see that Michiru could show such kindness. One night, Yasutaka visited an exclusive bar and unexpectedly ran into Shinya there. Shinya found it odd, since he thought Yasutaka preferred louder places. Yasutaka explained that he had only passed by Sluchino. He then asked whether Shinya was the one who got our security involved in Marcia's case. Shinya simply said that he had his own way of handling things. Yasutaka commented that being in a high-ranking position at a company seemed like it could give someone a headache. Meanwhile, Ayala had completed her medical checkup. Mikijiro confirmed that there were no more issues with her body. Kazuki asked if that meant Ayala could return to field work the next day, and Mikijiro agreed, telling Ayala to go back to the dorm. Kazuki reminded her not to push herself too hard. Ayala hesitated, asking if Kazuki was really okay with letting her return, since she kept causing trouble. Kazuki replied that whether Ayala caused trouble or not was something Tsukasa would decide. Then Kazuki handed Ayala her ID card. Ayala returned to the dorm, but Tsukasa was not there. She waited for him for quite a while. While waiting, she picked up one of his books titled How to Make a Girl Fall in Love. After a long time passed and Tsukasa still had not returned, Ayala went to the office. There she overheard Tsukasa talking with Kazuki. Kazuki mentioned that since teaming up with Tsukasa, Ayala seemed to have changed, although she also looked very exhausted. Tsukasa thought it might be because she had not worked in a while. Kazuki believed that Ayala's change was thanks to Tsukasa, which made him happy to hear. Then Kazuki suddenly revealed that Ayala only had about 1,000 hours left, roughly 1 month. Tsukasa was shocked. Kazuki explained that when the time came, they would retrieve Ayala just like any other Giftia. He clarified that he did not mean to make Tsukasa feel overwhelmed, but he needed to know Tsukasa's decision, whether he would continue working with Ayala or end their partnership and wait for a new Giftia. If Tsukasa chose Ayala, then in 1 month their time together would come to an end. Ayala felt heartbroken as she listened, but then she heard Tsukasa firmly decide to stay with her until the very end. He admitted that he could not imagine being with anyone else. Kazuki asked if he was truly sure, and Tsukasa confirmed his decision without hesitation. Hearing that, Ayala felt both happy and deeply moved. She returned to the dorm, prepared some tea, and waited for Tsukasa to come back. Not long after, Tsukasa arrived and his face lit up with happiness when he saw Ayala had returned. He mentioned that he should have been the one to pick her up and welcomed her back. Ayala responded with a gentle smile. They sat together, chatting and drinking tea. Ayala then asked what Tsukasa wanted, whether he needed something to eat, wanted to take a bath, or needed her help with anything. Hearing that, Tsukasa choked in surprise and wondered if Ero had taught her to say things like that. Ayala denied it, explaining that she had learned it from his book. Realizing that, Tsukasa became flustered and reacted in embarrassment. That day, Tsukasa could not stop thinking about Ayala's limited lifespan that Kazuki had mentioned earlier. He decided that he wanted to stay by Ayala's side until the very end. With that in mind, he planned to ask her out on a date. That morning, Tsukasa was surprised to see Ayala hanging clothes out to dry. He did not expect that she had washed all of his laundry. Ayala brushed it off as nothing important. Tsukasa reacted in panic when Ayala was about to hang his underwear. He quickly took it from her and said that he could handle his own laundry, but Ayala explained that doing the laundry was part of her responsibilities. Tsukasa pointed out that they usually used a laundry service, yet Ayala said she simply felt motivated to do it herself. He insisted that she did not need to wash something that personal, but Ayala calmly said she did not mind. Feeling flustered, Tsukasa gathered his things and hurried back into his room. At the office, Tsukasa told his co-workers that he wanted to ask Ayala out. Rain initially advised against it. Zack brought up how Ayala had once left Tsukasa alone at the amusement park, suggesting things might not go well. Constance felt Zack did not need to bring that up again. Takao suggested that Tsukasa should give Ayala some space, warning that rushing things might make her uncomfortable. On the other hand, Yasutaka fully supported Tsukasa's decision and even asked Constance to share some advice on how to ask a girl out. Constance believed that honesty was what mattered most and that if Tsukasa was straightforward about his feelings, Ayala would understand. Hearing that, Tsukasa smiled and felt more confident. When Tsukasa returned to his desk, he was surprised to see Ayala cleaning it. She explained that it looked a bit messy, so she decided to tidy it up. Tsukasa smiled, feeling a little guilty, but Ayala said it was simply part of being his partner. Tsukasa then asked about some papers that had been on his desk. Ayala explained that she had thrown them away, thinking they were no longer needed. It turned out Tsukasa still needed them. Shocked, Ayala immediately rushed to the trash to find them. Tsukasa said it was not a big deal, but Ayala kept searching until she found them. Even then, Tsukasa still could not bring himself to ask her out. Later that day, they carried out a field assignment together. Tsukasa mentioned that the job had gone better than expected. On their way back to the office, he said that he had something important to tell her. Ayala said she also had something important to say. Tsukasa became nervous and curious, wondering what it could be. It turned out Ayala had realized that they were lost and admitted that she had forgotten the way back. She became anxious and asked what they should do. Tsukasa laughed lightly and suggested using navigation. Ayala admitted that she had turned it off because she wanted to appear more capable. Tsukasa reassured her that using navigation would not make her any less impressive. That night, Tsukasa and his coworkers gathered in the restroom. wondering why he still had not asked Ayla out. Yasutaka questioned where Tsukasa's earlier enthusiasm had gone. Zack felt that Yasutaka might be pushing him too hard. However, Yasutaka believed that moments like this should not be missed and reminded Tsukasa that opportunities like this do not come often. He urged him to act. Tsukasa finally approached Ayla, while the others watched from a distance. With Yasutaka silently cheering him on, Tsukasa gathered his courage. He noticed Ayla look pale and asked if something was wrong. Ayla admitted that she felt bad because she thought she had caused trouble for him throughout the day. Tsukasa smiled and told her not to worry about it. He mentioned that her behavior that day felt a little different, like washing his clothes and cleaning his desk. Ayla explained that she just wanted to be useful to him. Tsukasa then told her that he wanted to spend time with her over the weekend, just the two of them. Ayla asked what kind of work they would be doing. Tsukasa clarified that it was not about work, but something personal. He sincerely asked her to go on a date with him. Ayla wondered if agreeing would make her useful to him. Tsukasa replied that if she agreed, it would make him very happy. Nearby, Yasutaka felt relieved, knowing that Tsukasa had finally managed to express his feelings and invite Ayla on a date. Tsukasa initially thought that Ayla would probably turn him down, but to his surprise, she actually agreed to go on a date with him. That made him really happy, since his invitation worked. Yasutaka was also thrilled to see Tsukasa successfully ask Ayla out. The next day, Ayla made tea for Tsukasa while he was working. Out of nowhere, Kazuki pulled Tsukasa aside and asked if it was true that he and Ayla were going on a date. Tsukasa admitted it. Kazuki commented that it felt a bit excessive. Even though she trusted Tsukasa to take care of Ayla, she believed he should not be so relaxed about it. Tsukasa understood what she meant. He realized she had a point. He was still a beginner and needed to put in more effort. Ayla continued her training, while Tsukasa stayed busy finishing his work, even pulling an all-nighter. Yasutaka even invited him out for drinks at one point. That same night, Ayla kept practicing diving under the supervision of Eru and Mikijiro. The following day, Tsukasa kept pushing himself at work. Michiru noticed how busy he was. When lunchtime came, Michiru ate her homemade lunch while Tsukasa only had an energy drink. Michiru scolded him for not taking care of his eating habits. Tsukasa asked her not to worry about him and quickly went back to work. Michiru found it strange how suddenly motivated Tsukasa had become. Zack suggested that if she was worried, she could just make lunch for him, especially since she was good at cooking. He also mentioned that Tsukasa was probably so fired up because of the upcoming date and joked that Tsukasa might stop paying attention to Michiru altogether. That caught Michiru off guard, and she immediately asked Zack to explain what date he was talking about and who Tsukasa was going with. Zack casually revealed that Tsukasa would be going out with Ayla. Michiru had already suspected it, which explained Tsukasa's sudden burst of energy. With an annoyed expression, she said she did not care about it at all, though Zack kept teasing her anyway. That night, Michiru and Eru approached Ayla and asked where she and Tsukasa planned to go on their date. Ayla said the destination was entirely up to her. Michiru criticized Tsukasa for being irresponsible. Eru then asked Ayla what kind of place she wanted to visit, but Ayla did not have any ideas. Michiru had expected that. Eru suggested going to an aquarium or watching a movie at the theater. Zack commented that Eru's suggestions were safe choices. Eru seemed slightly confused by his remark but explained that since it was their first date, there was nothing wrong with keeping things simple. Eru then asked for Michiru's opinion. Michiru said that if it were up to her, a beach would be a nice place for a date. Someone pointed out that the beach might be closed at that time, but Michiru responded that it would actually be better if it was quiet, since Tsukasa and Ayla could spend time alone together. Eru agreed and imagined walking along the beach with a big dog, laughing and playing by the shoreline. Michiru also imagined watching the sunset together, sharing quiet, meaningful moments and holding hands. Zack teased that Michiru was surprisingly romantic. Eru told Ayla to remember that Michiru had a romantic side. Embarrassed, Michiru lightly hit Eru for putting ideas into Ayla's head. Michiru then said that Ayla did not need to follow their suggestions and asked if there was anywhere she personally wanted to go. Ayla started thinking about an amusement park, a place she had once visited with Kazuki. Michiru then asked what Ayla planned to wear. Ayla said she intended to wear her work uniform. Michiru immediately objected and asked if she had any personal clothes. Ayla showed the outfit Tsukasa had bought for her after she accidentally tore it in the store. Eru thought the tear could be covered up with some decorations, but Michiru was not convinced, saying it might look odd. In the end, Michiru offered to fix it herself because she wanted Ayla to look her best for her first date. Later, while in the dorm room with Tsukasa, Ayla told him that their date destination would be the amusement park. Tsukasa asked if she was sure about that choice. Ayla admitted she did not know where else to go, and also explained that she once left Tsukasa there. something that had made her feel guilty ever since. Because of that, she wanted to go there again with him. Tsukasa agreed with her choice. That night, Tsukasa opened Ayala's diary and saw a note saying that Kazuki had once invited Ayala to the amusement park again, shortly before Kazuki eventually decided to stop being Ayala's partner. The next day, Tsukasa woke up from his sleep feeling both hot and cold at the same time. He was momentarily stunned when he saw Ayala wearing a different outfit than usual, and he thought it suited her really well. That day, they went to an amusement park together. Ayala immediately walked toward a bench where she used to sit with Kazuki in the past. She enjoyed watching people happily riding the attractions. Tsukasa wondered if that bench was her favorite spot, remembering from her diary that Kazuki often took her to the amusement park when they were still partners. Ayala explained that she used to sit there until sunset, observing the different smiles on everyone's faces. She felt that it helped her release her worries and brought her a sense of warmth from those smiles. When Tsukasa asked whether Kazuki always stayed with her, Ayala shared that he would usually fall asleep beside her. Tsukasa then asked when the last time she visited the park was. Ayala said it had been 3 years ago, when Kazuki told her he no longer wanted to be her partner because she caused him too much trouble. According to Ayala, that visit was overwhelming, as both happy and sad feelings filled her mind all at once. Tsukasa asked what she liked most about the amusement park, whether it was the roller coaster or the Ferris wheel. Surprisingly, Ayala admitted that she had never ridden either of them. Tsukasa then invited her to try them together, saying there were so many fun experiences waiting for them there. They went on several rides, from swinging attractions to spinning ones, and even a haunted house. After that, they took pictures and shared some creeps. Tsukasa tried to buy her another keychain, but Ayala showed him the one he had given her before. Tsukasa was unsure whether what he was doing was right or perhaps a bit selfish, but deep down, he just wanted Ayala to feel happy in every moment she had. Later, they rode the Ferris wheel. Ayala was amazed as she looked down and saw the spot where she used to sit, now appearing so small from above. Tsukasa mentioned that it was the place where they first met. Ayala never expected that she would get to ride the Ferris wheel with him. Tsukasa felt relieved and grateful, believing that Ayala was truly enjoying herself. Suddenly, Ayala was startled when Tsukasa collapsed into her arms. She felt flustered as his body went limp and he lost consciousness. Not knowing what to do, she was overwhelmed with concern. That night, Tsukasa woke up and found himself lying in bed with Ayala by his side. When he asked what had happened, Ayala explained that they were on the Ferris wheel when he suddenly fainted. Tsukasa could not remember any of it and apologized for causing trouble. Ayala did not want him to think that way and believed he was simply exhausted. She suggested that they should go to the hospital the next day, then quickly went to get him some water. At the same time, Michiru stood outside Tsukasa's room, bringing a bowl of porridge. She had practiced what she wanted to say before coming, preparing herself to knock on the door. However, she hesitated, thinking that Tsukasa already had Ayala by his side and decided not to go in. Tsukasa later shared that he often fainted during important moments. He also explained that he had not gone to college because his appendicitis flared up during the entrance exam. Even so, he felt grateful, since that situation led him to join the terminal service and meet Ayala. To him, failure was not always a bad thing. Ayala wanted Tsukasa to keep smiling. Tsukasa apologized again for making her worry, while Ayala also apologized for hiding the truth about her remaining time. Tsukasa admitted that he wanted to stay with her until her very last moment. Ayala nodded when he asked if she was okay with that. He then expressed his wish to go out with her again, and as they held hands, Tsukasa eventually fell asleep. The next morning, Tsukasa woke up feeling much better after resting all night, thinking he no longer needed to visit the hospital. However, to his surprise, Ayala was the one who had become exhausted, her battery running low after staying awake the entire night. Tsukasa panicked and desperately called out for her to hold on. One day, Tsukasa and Ayala were out on a field assignment. Their client was Mirabelle's owner. Tsukasa asked the owner to sign the required documents, but the owner did not expect that it was already time to say goodbye to Mirabelle. It was clear that the owner would deeply miss her. Tsukasa then offered 3 options. The first was a special price for purchasing a new unit. The second was a trade-in discount. The third option was installing a new operating system into Mirabelle's body, meaning her physical form could still be used, but her personality and identity would completely change. After thinking it through, the owner chose to install the latest OS in Mirabelle's body. Tsukasa asked if the owner was truly okay with that decision, since all of Mirabelle's memories and experiences would be erased. The owner said it was not a problem because she had gone through something similar before. Even if Mirabelle's soul changed, she believed she could still treat her the same way. On the way back, Tsukasa seemed lost in thought, quietly reflecting on what had just happened. Back at the office, Tsukasa asked Mikijiro if any Giftia had ever remembered their past memories. Mikijiro explained that such a thing was impossible. Tsukasa then asked Ren, Constance, Sherry, Zach, and Michiru, but they all gave the same answer: it could not happen. Michiru added that what Giftia experienced was not the same as memory loss. Their stored data was completely replaced with new components, meaning they essentially became entirely different individuals. Tsukasa wondered if that meant people could only accept things as they were when a Giftia reached their limit. Michiru responded that giving false hope would actually be more cruel. She understood how Tsukasa felt since she had thought the same way when she first started working at the terminal service. She advised him to learn to accept it in his heart because there was no other way. Later that afternoon, Kazuki informed Tsukasa and Ayla that a marksman from Terminal Service 3 would be arriving the next day. She had heard that the retrieval target had run away with their owner and might be hiding somewhere nearby. Kazuki asked them to assist with the case. Tsukasa agreed, and Ayla even suggested that she could handle the task on her own. Not long after, a marksman from Terminal Service 3 approached them. She introduced herself in a friendly manner as Andy. Tsukasa asked about her partner, and Andy explained that her partner did not come along, since marksmen were usually dispatched alone. Tsukasa admitted that he had never encountered a case like the one Andy was handling. According to Andy, sending 2 people would not be efficient, especially since she was often assisted by staff from the local branch. Tsukasa quietly thought that if Ayla were ever assigned to another area, he would definitely go with her. Suddenly, Ayla stated that she would be perfectly capable of handling things on her own. Tsukasa felt a bit uneasy hearing that and clarified that she had misunderstood him. Andy then commented that Tsukasa and Ayla made quite an unusual duo. A moment later, Eru arrived. She looked shocked and immediately called Andy by the name Olivia, thinking she was her childhood friend. Eru rushed over and hugged Andy tightly in excitement. Andy felt uncomfortable and quickly pushed her away. She was surprised that someone who reminded her of Olivia could react so differently. In the past, Olivia would panic and beg her to stop whenever things got too intense. Even so, Eru seemed oddly amused by Andy's rough response. Tsukasa asked if Eru and Andy knew each other. Eru explained that the person she called Olivia had been her childhood best friend. Andy, however, found that strange since she had just met Eru for the first time. Hearing that, Eru was taken aback. She apologized, realizing she must have mistaken Andy for someone else because of how similar they looked. After apologizing again, Eru quietly left. Meanwhile, Eru looked visibly saddened as she realized that Olivia's memories were truly gone. That night, Tsukasa, Ayla, and Andy chased after a runaway Giftia and the owner. During the pursuit, Ayla tripped, forcing Tsukasa to stop and help her. Not long after, Andy managed to intercept the Giftia and the owner, asking them to stop running. The Giftia's name was Derek. He gently let go of his owner's hand and asked him to sign the documents that Andy had prepared. Derek's owner begged Andy to let them go, but she refused. The owner did not want to be separated from Derek and pleaded for more time, insisting that Derek still had a week left. However, Andy could not grant that request. She remained firm and carried out her duty to erase Derek's memories. The owner broke down in overwhelming grief, and although Tsukasa felt deeply sympathetic, he could not interfere as it was part of Andy's responsibility. After finishing their assignment, Andy, Tsukasa, and Ayla headed back right away. Andy felt really helped by both of them. Noticing that Tsukasa and Ayla had gone quiet, she asked if something she did was wrong. Tsukasa then questioned whether separating people like that was really the right approach, since it could lead to constant friction between Andy and the Giftia owners. Andy admitted that she was already used to it, since her job involved removing people's memories. When they arrived back at the office, Tsukasa told Yasutaka about what had happened. According to Yasutaka, Andy was not at fault at all because she had followed terminal service procedures. Instead, the method used by Terminal Service 01 was the one being questioned. 3 years earlier, Kazuki had proposed a method that allowed emotional space for both Giftia owners and the Giftia themselves. However, that approach caused Takao to get reprimanded by his superiors due to the increased costs. After that, Tsukasa stepped outside and saw that Ayla had been waiting for him the whole time. He told her that he had just been discussing the earlier incident with Yasutaka. Ayla suddenly mentioned that she could have joined the discussion too. Hearing that, Tsukasa smiled and said that next time he would include her. The next day, Tsukasa and Ayla had breakfast together in the cafeteria. Tsukasa asked whether Eru had called Andy earlier. It turned out that Eru had contacted Andy to apologize for what happened before. She also mentioned that she and Andy had started getting along well. When Tsukasa asked where Eru had met Andy in the past, she explained that Andy used to be her neighbor back when her name was Olivia. Eru then showed photos of her time with Olivia. Tsukasa recognized that it was indeed Andy, though she looked different. Olivia had been retrieved several years ago and her operating system had been replaced. She had been recycled into Andy as a cost-saving measure. Andy no longer had Olivia's memories. Eru never expected to meet Olivia again. and seeing Andy, who had the same face, stirred up deep emotions within her. That night, Tsukasa kept thinking about how Andy no longer had Olivia's memories. He realized that Eru had already come to terms with it, and he wondered if situations like that were actually common. The following day, the Terminal Service 01 office received sweets from the manager of Terminal Service 03. Takao mentioned that Andy from Terminal Service 03 worked very efficiently and could complete tasks in no time. Hearing that, Michiru felt offended and said that it sounded like Takao was implying that the people in Terminal Service 01 were incompetent. Takao simply smiled and said that was not his intention. Suddenly, Eru showed up looking for Tsukasa and asked for his help. She explained that she had told Andy about a festival near her home, but Andy insisted on going there with her that very night. Eru asked Tsukasa to come along. Tsukasa found it a bit strange and wondered why Eru and Andy would not just go together. Eru refused, explaining that the festival held too many memories of her time with Olivia, and she did not think she could handle it alone. It would feel too overwhelming, especially since Andy had the same face as Olivia. She held onto Tsukasa tightly, continuing to ask for his support. Meanwhile, Michiru seemed annoyed and curious about what Eru and Tsukasa had been talking about. She asked Ayala, but Ayala had no idea either. To Ayala, it seemed like something serious. Michiru and Zack found it unusual to see Ayala being that curious. At that moment, Tsukasa wondered if bringing Andy to the festival might somehow trigger Olivia's memories to resurface. Eru understood that his question was likely connected to Ayala. She believed that no matter what the answer was, Tsukasa would not accept it without seeing it for himself, so she invited him to come along and find out together at the festival that night. Later, Tsukasa informed Ayala that he would be going to the festival with Eru and Andy. Ayala said that she wanted to come along too, but Tsukasa gently told her not to push herself. Even so, Ayala insisted on going, and Tsukasa eventually agreed. He also mentioned that there would be a fireworks show at the end of the festival. Ayala admitted that she had never seen fireworks before. Tsukasa felt sure that she would be amazed by how lively and exciting the atmosphere would be. Ayala then asked if she needed earplugs or if she should cover her ears with her hands. Tsukasa reassured her that fireworks were not that loud. Tsukasa, Eru, and Ayala went to a festival together where they ran into Andy. Andy felt genuinely happy to be out enjoying the event with friends, and she considered herself lucky to have Eru in her life. Tsukasa kept taking pictures of Eru and Andy at various food stalls, which made Ayala feel a bit left out as he stayed close to the two of them. Eru later invited Andy to look for drinks. Tsukasa showed Ayala the photos he had taken of Eru and Andy, but Ayala responded with a slight pout. When Tsukasa offered to take pictures of her as well, she declined. He began to sense that Ayala might not be in the best mood. Not long after, Eru and Andy returned, excitedly showing off the drinks they had bought. It turned out to be jellyfish juice, a unique specialty of the festival. Tsukasa could not imagine what it might taste like, but Andy tried it and described the flavor as unusual yet enjoyable. After that, Andy and Eru continued exploring other parts of the festival. Tsukasa then invited Ayala to walk with him and suggested they hold hands so they would not get separated. Ayala responded that she was no longer a child and felt confident she would not lose track of him. A little while later, Andy called out to Tsukasa and he immediately went over to her. Ayala followed behind, her gaze fixed on his hand as if she wanted to reach for it. Suddenly, she accidentally bumped into a mascot, and in that brief moment, Tsukasa disappeared from her sight. Ayala quickly grew anxious as she realized she had been separated from the others. Meanwhile, Andy was having fun playing a shooting game, though she had not managed to win a prize yet. Tsukasa commented to Eru that Andy seemed to be having a great time. Eru then asked whether Tsukasa thought Andy's memories might return, considering they had already spent quite a while enjoying the festival. Eru believed Tsukasa already understood the reality of the situation. He mentioned that he might not return to the same festival next year. Instead, he wanted to go somewhere new with Andy, as he did not want to mix memories of Olivia with the new ones he was creating with her. He also expressed his gratitude to Tsukasa for staying by his side and helping him move forward from the past. Tsukasa questioned why past memories had to be left behind. Eru explained that this moment was the right time to create new memories and that it was important to start from now. Just then, the fireworks show began. Tsukasa suddenly realized that Ayala was no longer beside him, and he immediately ran off to search for her. Eru quietly hoped that Tsukasa would handle the situation well. At that moment, Ayala was sitting alone somewhere, covering her ears. Tsukasa searched all across the festival grounds, scanning the crowd, but he could not find her at first. He kept looking until he finally spotted Ayala sitting by herself. Tsukasa gently pulled her hands away from her ears and apologized for unintentionally leaving her behind. Ayala smiled and told him it was not a big deal, as what mattered most was that they were together again. She looked at him but suddenly flinched at the sound of fireworks exploding in the sky. Tsukasa commented on how loud the fireworks were, then held Ayla's hand tightly to help calm her down. Ayla then asked whether Andy's memories would ever return. Tsukasa felt confused by the sudden question. Ayla assumed that Tsukasa must be hurting because he kept thinking about her limited time. Tears filled her eyes as she said that maybe she should not continue being his partner anymore. Tsukasa pulled her into a firm embrace and admitted that what he was feeling was incredibly painful, almost overwhelming, yet he still wanted to stay by Ayla's side as her partner for as long as possible. Ayla questioned why he would go that far. Tsukasa finally revealed that it was because he had fallen in love with her. At the same time, Eru and Andy watched from a distance with excitement. Ayla's face turned red upon hearing Tsukasa's confession. Feeling nervous, she said that she could not accept his feelings. Tsukasa was left stunned by her response, while Eru and Andy could not help but feel disappointed that Ayla had said that. That day, Tsukasa looked completely shaken after Ayla turned down his confession the night before. The others had already heard about it from Eru. Takao and Ryan thought it would be best to leave him alone for a while, but Yasutaka approached Tsukasa and tried to get a reaction by playfully messing with Eru's hair in front of Ayla. Ayla did not respond at all. Yasutaka even went as far as showing an adult magazine to Tsukasa, yet he still showed no reaction. At that point, Yasutaka became convinced that Tsukasa was in serious shock. Sherry scolded Yasutaka for joking around in such a situation. Yasutaka explained that he was only trying to cheer Tsukasa up. Suddenly, Michiru showed up and questioned whether it was true that Tsukasa had confessed to Ayla. Takao and Rain quickly stopped her from saying anything more, since Tsukasa was clearly not in a stable state. Michiru then called Ayla aside to talk privately. She asked if Ayla was really okay and whether Tsukasa had confessed and been rejected. Ayla looked visibly nervous, unsure of what to do. The night before, Tsukasa had suddenly confessed, which caught her completely off guard and left her panicked and confused. Ayla explained that her mind had been overwhelmed with so many thoughts in that moment, and without thinking, she ended up saying that she could not accept his feelings. Since then, Tsukasa had gone completely silent and did not respond to anything she said. Zack mentioned that Tsukasa would probably react the same way even if someone else tried talking to him. Ayla felt extremely guilty, but Michiru tried to calm her down. She said that Tsukasa had simply been too confident and that it was partly his own fault for expressing his feelings without considering the situation. Ayla then shared that she had gotten separated from Tsukasa during the festival. Michiru commented that Tsukasa was not exactly reliable when it came to accompanying a girl. Ayla added that Tsukasa had searched for her and eventually found her again. Michiru pointed out that anyone could have done that. Ayla continued, explaining how they held hands when the fireworks started. She also mentioned that they talked briefly and even shared a hug, and that was when Tsukasa confessed his feelings. Michiru was surprised to hear that, but she remarked that Tsukasa was not exactly romantic, so it made sense that Ayla turned him down. Zack found it odd that Michiru said that, especially since her face turned red while listening to Ayla's story. Ayla began to worry that she had hurt Tsukasa deeply. She did not know what she should do and asked Michiru what she would do if she were in the same situation. Michiru was caught off guard by the question. Zack chimed in, saying that Michiru was not the best person to ask since no one had ever confessed to her. Annoyed, Michiru told Zack to stop commenting. Michiru then asked whether Ayla could still act normally around Tsukasa, and Ayla shook her head. Michiru concluded that both of them probably needed some space for a while. She suggested that Ayla and Tsukasa temporarily live separately so Ayla could have time to think things through. Unfortunately, Michiru had not yet figured out exactly how to make that happen. Later that day, Kazuki and Constance went out to carry out a mission. Kazuki reminded him to be extra careful because the Giftia owner they were about to meet had a history of violent behavior. Constance then asked if Kazuki had heard about Tsukasa confessing to Ayla. Kazuki was surprised and immediately asked when it happened and what Tsukasa had said. Constance clarified that Tsukasa had only confessed, not proposed. Kazuki became concerned about how far their relationship had progressed. When Constance revealed that Tsukasa had been rejected, Kazuki was even more shocked. Even Constance had not expected Tsukasa to be turned down. That night, Michiru switched rooms with Tsukasa. She warned him not to touch any of her belongings. She also told Zack to keep an eye on him and act if anything seemed off, but Zack instead casually revealed where Michiru kept her things, which immediately earned him a scolding. Zack complained about having to stay with Tsukasa, saying he was not in the mood to deal with someone so deeply down. Michiru explained that it would only be for a few days, since she needed to stay with Ayla along with Eru. Zack then asked if that meant he also had to cheer Tsukasa up. Michiru wondered how long Tsukasa planned to keep acting like that and told him to at least try to snap out of it a little. Tsukasa briefly reacted, looking surprised, but soon went back to staring blankly. Michiru then prepared some food, convinced that Tsukasa had been so lost in thought that he forgot to eat. She said she did not want anyone going hungry in her room. Zack pointed out that missing a single day of meals would not be a big deal, but in the end, Tsukasa thanked them, and the three of them had dinner together. Meanwhile, Eru had already prepared a lot of food for her and Ayala to enjoy together. Ayala felt confused about why she had to wear a bunny costume. Eru had intentionally dressed her that way because she thought Ayala looked adorable in it. Eru was clearly excited to have Ayala in her room and felt certain that the night would turn into something special. At the same time, Michiru was washing dishes while grumbling to herself. She complained that losing motivation because of heartbreak was going too far for a new employee. Tsukasa apologized for his behavior, but Michiru pointed out that Ayala seemed emotionally like a high school student. She reminded him that personal problems should not interfere with work. Michiru then asked Tsukasa to imagine how difficult it would be if someone in a depressed state were assigned to retrieve an important giftia. Michiru went on to share her own experience. After losing her father, she had felt completely alone in the world. However, Kazuki kept coming to visit her again and again. It became too much for her to handle, so she eventually told him to stop visiting. At that time, Kazuki explained that terminal service always considers both the feelings of giftias and their owners. Kazuki knew he could never replace Michiru's father, but he offered to be someone she could talk to and promised to listen if it would help her feel better. He added that if he did not do that, he would feel like he was letting her father down. Seeing Kazuki's sincerity, Michiru finally decided to join terminal service. She even grew proud of her job over time. Because of that, she made it clear that she would not just stand by if Tsukasa was not serious about his work there. Tsukasa apologized again and thanked Michiru for caring enough to say those things. Michiru brushed it off, saying she was just giving guidance as a senior. She then asked if Tsukasa regretted confessing his feelings. Tsukasa answered that even though he had been rejected, his feelings for Ayala would not change. Without realizing it, Michiru admitted that she thought Tsukasa was kind of cool. She immediately felt embarrassed and questioned why she had said that, then quickly scolded him and told him to seriously think about his relationship with Ayala moving forward. Zack casually commented that Michiru tended to get too involved in other people's business. Meanwhile, Eru had also put on a bunny girl outfit and asked Ayala to stay up that night because they were planning a girls' night. Ayala looked uneasy and asked where Michiru was. Eru confidently said that Michiru would probably show up soon. She also mentioned that she had bought several types of pajamas for Ayala and asked her to choose one, but instead, Ayala seemed a bit overwhelmed. The next morning, Tsukasa woke Michiru up. She was shocked that he had seen her right after she woke up and felt extremely embarrassed. She wondered how she had ended up falling asleep so suddenly the night before. Tsukasa told her to hurry and get ready so they would not be late for work. Michiru scolded him for not waking her earlier. When they stepped out of the room, they ran into Ayala and Eru, who were also coming out at the same time. Ayala looked nervous and said that she did not mind if something was going on between Tsukasa and Michiru. Tsukasa quickly pointed out that she had misunderstood the situation. Michiru also firmly stated that there was nothing between her and Tsukasa. However, Ayala walked away while saying that the two of them seemed like a good match. Michiru became worried and urged Tsukasa to go after Ayala. Later that morning, Michiru and Tsukasa met Ayala in the cafeteria and explained everything. Michiru felt relieved when Ayala understood. Ayala apologized for misunderstanding both of them. Tsukasa admitted that it was his fault for not explaining things to Ayala earlier. After that, things became awkward again, so Michiru encouraged them to talk about their relationship. Ayala admitted that when Tsukasa confessed to her, she had said she could not accept it at the time, but she wanted him to give her more time to think about it. Tsukasa replied that no matter what her answer would be, he wanted to remain her partner until the very end. While accompanying Zack in the treatment room, Michiru asked Mikijiro whether love depended on timing or not. Mikijiro immediately guessed that she was talking about Ayala. Michiru admitted that she had told Ayala to think carefully about Tsukasa's confession. She then questioned whether her advice had been the right choice, since overthinking often led to more doubt. Mikijiro said that he could not really comment on that. The next morning, Tsukasa and Ayala seemed to be back to their usual selves. They went to work together, and Ayala even prepared tea for Tsukasa like she always did. However, she accidentally spilled the tea that was meant for Takao. Tsukasa helped her clean up the broken glass. Meanwhile, Michiru quietly kept observing the changes in their behavior. At the dorm room of Michiru, Ayala came by to ask how she truly felt about Tsukasa. At first, she did not understand why he could keep smiling all the time, and that made her curious. She wondered if maybe he smiled just to hide his sadness, and Michiru admitted that it was likely true. Ayala did not want to see him smiling because he was hurting, and she wondered if there was anything she could do for him. She then talked about their trip to the amusement park, where Tsukasa had looked genuinely happy. That moment made her feel happy too, and for some reason, her heart had started racing. Ever since then, whenever she thought about him, her heart would pound, and her mind would go blank. She did not understand why it kept happening, and it left her confused. Michiru understood what Ayla was feeling and said that she should already know the answer. Ayla admitted that she had known it all along and that it would be better if she kept her distance from Tsukasa. Michiru found that strange and questioned why she would say something like that. In Ayla's view, it seemed like the best choice for both of them. Michiru explained that what Ayla was feeling was called love, and because of that, she did not need to stay away from him. However, Ayla shook her head and insisted that she could not get close to Tsukasa. Hearing that, Michiru could not understand how she came to that conclusion. Ayla then revealed that she only had 1 month left. That statement left Michiru completely stunned. Meanwhile, Kazuki was at a bar when Yasutaka arrived and greeted her. Kazuki remarked that he was the one who had pushed Tsukasa into making a move. Yasutaka denied it, saying that Tsukasa had chosen to confess his feelings on his own. Kazuki felt it was unfortunate that things had turned out this way, especially since Tsukasa and Ayla had grown so close. Yasutaka then asked if Kazuki planned to interfere, pointing out that she had been avoiding reality for a long time. That comment struck a nerve, and Kazuki responded that he was acting like a know-it-all senior at a moment like this. Yasutaka casually admitted that he understood everything about her, referring to her as his junior. That night, Michiru sat alone outside. Tsukasa approached her and asked why she was sitting there by herself. Her face looked troubled as she asked when he had found out about Ayla's remaining time. He sat beside her and said that he had only learned about it recently. Michiru became emotional, realizing that she had only just found out herself, yet she had said so many harsh things to both him and Ayla. She sincerely apologized for that. After hearing that Tsukasa had confessed his feelings even after learning about Ayla's limited time, Michiru questioned why he would take such a risk. She could not understand why he would start a relationship that would not last long. Tsukasa explained that he wanted to create as many memories as possible with Ayla, and also wanted her to have memories of her own. Even though his feelings had been turned down, he still wanted to do it for her sake. Michiru commented that he was only setting himself up to get hurt. She could not understand why he would go through with it, knowing how it would end. She admitted that she herself had run away from reality because she could not accept it, and that her actions had hurt many people. She then asked if he could truly take responsibility until the very end. Tsukasa answered that he would remain Ayla's partner until the end. Hearing that, Michiru raised her voice in frustration. She said she disliked people who acted without experience and believed that Tsukasa was unreliable when it came to love. Even so, she decided that she would fully support his feelings. Later, Tsukasa noticed someone entering the dorm room. Thinking it was Ayla, he quickly went inside, but it turned out to be Kazuki. She had come on purpose because she wanted to talk to him. Not long after, Ayla arrived at the room as well, having been called by Kazuki. Kazuki then announced that starting that day, Tsukasa and Ayla would no longer be partners. Both of them were shocked to hear it. She firmly stated that their team was officially disbanded. That night, Kazuki told Tsukasa and Ayla that their team was being disbanded. Tsukasa was confused and asked why Kazuki would make that decision. Kazuki explained that romantic relationships in the workplace were not allowed. Tsukasa had never heard of such a rule before. Kazuki then said he would take over as Ayla's partner, and starting the next day, Tsukasa would be teamed up with Constance. Ayla accepted the decision without hesitation. After that, Ayla followed Kazuki to his dorm room. Kazuki seemed unsure about what to do after making that decision. He knocked on the door and tried to talk to Constance, but Ayla found a letter instead. It turned out that Constance had gone fishing with Takao and would not be coming back that night. Kazuki immediately suspected it was a lie, since as far as he knew, Constance did not have any interest in fishing. He started to think that Constance might have already known he would bring Ayla to his room. Not knowing what else to do, Kazuki decided to drink. The next morning, Kazuki woke up and was greeted by Ayla. He was startled when he saw her face. Ayla asked if he really did not remember anything, then told him to check the photos on his terminal. Apparently, a lot had happened the night before while he was drunk. Ayla pointed out that Kazuki was still weak when it came to alcohol. Kazuki looked embarrassed as he realized how he had acted. Later, Kazuki and Ayla headed to the office together. Kazuki asked how Ayla felt about her relationship with Tsukasa going forward. Ayla said that separating seemed like the best choice for both of them. Meanwhile, Michiru told Takao and the others that Kazuki had disbanded Tsukasa and Ayla's team because of a rule banning workplace relationships. Sherry and Ryan admitted they had never heard of such a rule before. Michiru mentioned a rumor that Kazuki might have been involved in a workplace relationship in the past, though she was not sure if it was true. Tsukasa then asked Sherry if she knew anything about that rumor. Seeing Sherry's nervous expression, Michiru suspected she might know something. Tsukasa asked Sherry to explain, thinking it could be related to the rule. However, Sherry refused to say anything in order to protect Kazuki's reputation. Not long after, Kazuki arrived and greeted everyone. Ayala seemed unusually quiet. Kazuki immediately began the briefing and announced that starting that day he would switch partners with Tsukasa. Takao was surprised by Kazuki's decision and pointed out that he should have asked for approval first. Kazuki apologized for not informing Constance earlier, but Constance said he had no objections. Kazuki firmly stated that he did not want to be separated from Ayala, yet he still went ahead with the arrangement. Kazuki then ended the meeting and asked Tsukasa to stay behind in the conference room. As they left, Michiru asked Ayala if she was worried about Tsukasa, but Ayala walked away without saying anything. Inside the room, Tsukasa asked Kazuki how he could get back together with Ayala. Instead of answering calmly, Kazuki pulled his ear and scolded him, saying everything started because Tsukasa confessed his feelings. Tsukasa apologized and said he just did not want his relationship with Ayala to end like that. Kazuki then admitted that the rule about banning workplace relationships was actually a lie. He explained that he could not stand seeing Ayala carry more emotional burden by staying with Tsukasa. Kazuki also told him that Ayala believed separating was the best choice for both of them. Tsukasa was shocked to hear that. Kazuki then told Tsukasa to leave everything regarding Ayala to him. He said he would fix Ayala's flaws and teach her a harsh lesson if necessary. Hearing that, Tsukasa became worried about whether she would be okay. After that, Michiru pulled Tsukasa aside and asked what Kazuki had said to him. Tsukasa explained that Kazuki wanted him to leave Ayala in his care. Zack asked if Kazuki had also said he would discipline Ayala, and Tsukasa nodded. Michiru guessed that Kazuki was being completely serious about the situation. In her opinion, Ayala might have a hard time handling it, since Kazuki could be extremely strict. Zack added that Michiru herself had gone through something similar before, and it caused her to lose 10 kilograms in just 1 month. Tsukasa felt uneasy just imagining it. Later in the restroom, Takao met Tsukasa and said he hoped Tsukasa would be okay, since Kazuki's stubborn attitude could be difficult to deal with. That afternoon, Yasutaka advised Tsukasa to be careful, warning him that Kazuki could become very sensitive when it came to Ayala. He even shared that last year, Kazuki hit him with a bottle when he brought up Ayala in a conversation. Yasutaka added that Kazuki used to be a sweet and innocent girl. After that, Rain asked whether Tsukasa had heard about the room reassignment and who would be moving. Tsukasa requested that it be postponed for a few more days. Ren wondered if that idea came from Kazuki. Tsukasa hesitated to answer, but suddenly Constance showed up and confirmed that Tsukasa's statement was true. Ren encouraged him. Tsukasa thanked Constance, and Constance told him to get ready for their job, since from that moment on, they were partners. Meanwhile, Kazuki and Ayala headed to the Giftgear retrieval location. Their target at the time was named Sarah, and her owner was Antonio. Antonio was a mafia boss, and Kazuki suspected the situation might cause some trouble. Kazuki had already heard from Tsukasa that Ayala would be taking part in the retrieval process. Seeing Ayala's face made Kazuki recall how clumsy she used to be. In Kazuki's opinion, the job actually suited Ayala well. At the same time, Tsukasa and Constance had finished their assignment. Before leaving, Tsukasa said goodbye to their client Louis, who thanked them for their help. Tsukasa commented that Constance was incredibly skilled at his job, to the point where Tsukasa felt like he had not done much. However, Constance praised Tsukasa instead, saying that he was the one who managed to win over Louis' heart. At that moment, Tsukasa looked at a keychain he had bought at the amusement park, which reminded him of Ayala. Since it was already lunchtime, Constance invited Tsukasa to eat at a cafe. Tsukasa seemed lost in thought, and Constance asked whether he was worried about Kazuki. Tsukasa admitted that he was a little concerned. He then asked if Constance knew that their retrieval approach was different from other terminal service branches. Tsukasa explained that when he worked with Andy the previous day, he felt like the process was being forced, as Andy showed no concern for the target's condition. Constance explained that they were supposed to respond to the target's feelings, and that this method was originally suggested by Ayala. Unfortunately, company policy did not approve of it because it required more time and higher costs. Kazuki had initially disagreed with the method as well, but after ending her partnership with Ayala, she began discussing the idea with others and gradually adopted it. According to Constance, that showed just how much Kazuki cared about Ayala. Meanwhile, Kazuki was waiting for Ayala, who was negotiating with the target. Kazuki grew impatient as the people there seemed quite harsh toward Ayala. She tried to stay calm, reminding herself that she was the one who wanted to help Ayala change. She made up her mind that she would not forgive anyone if they made Ayala cry. Unexpectedly, Ayala succeeded in the negotiation, and Kazuki felt relieved. They then spoke with Antonio inside his house. Antonio explained that many people out there wanted him dead, and Sarah had been acting as his bodyguard for several years. Because of that, Sarah had never experienced a normal life. With that in mind, Antonio made a request to Ayla. Ayla promised to do her best. Antonio asked that, for the time Sarah had left, Ayla would become her companion and spend time with her. Sarah initially said she did not have time to play, but Antonio gently stopped her. Kazuki and Ayla agreed to the request. Antonio thanked them and told Sarah to enjoy the time she had left. Just as Ayla was about to stand and say something, she accidentally bumped her leg against the table. Sarah quickly helped her and made sure she was okay. Ayla then suggested that Antonio should also spend time with Sarah, because being with loved ones was what brought the greatest happiness. Meanwhile, Constance asked Tsukasa if he had noticed the changes in Ayla. Tsukasa did not fully understand what he meant. Constance asked him to recall when Ayla first joined the team. Tsukasa remembered that when they first shared a dorm room, Ayla would often ignore him whenever he tried to talk to her. She also tended to stay silent and motionless while working. Constance explained that this was the result of Ayla's work exhaustion. Even before Kazuki ended their partnership, Ayla had already started closing herself off. It could be said that she had been pushing herself too hard. However, recently Ayla seemed brighter again, more like she used to be, and that made Kazuki happy. Tsukasa guessed it might be because Ayla had grown more comfortable around him. Constance described it as a remarkable change compared to 3 years ago when Ayla would completely shut herself off and only give brief responses when spoken to. In truth, Kazuki had high hopes for Tsukasa. Constance had once overheard Kazuki saying that she could trust Tsukasa to take care of Ayla. At the same time, Ayla was accompanying Antonio and Sarah as they took a walk and enjoyed the scenery together. They looked genuinely happy. Kazuki realized that people tend to feel happiest when they are with someone they love. After they finished their duties and returned, Kazuki brought up what Ayla had said about happiness and being with someone special. Ayla asked if that was the reason Kazuki had assigned her that job. She then pointed out that Kazuki had always been selfish and that it was nothing new. Kazuki responded by asking whether the memories Ayla created were meant for others to remember her. Ayla explained that her work did not require any reward because it was her way of giving something back to those who had lost someone's memories. Kazuki reminded Ayla that she herself would soon become a target for retrieval. Feeling frustrated, Ayla said that she would distance herself from Tsukasa, believing that it was the best choice. Kazuki gently grabbed Ayla's face and told her that she was being difficult, asking her not to be so stubborn. Kazuki believed that everything Ayla was doing was for Tsukasa's sake. She admitted that 3 years ago, she had disbanded her team with Ayla because she thought it was the right decision and believed it was for Ayla's own good. However, Kazuki later realized that the decision had been a mistake and had led to nothing meaningful. She explained that if Ayla had been in Tsukasa's position back then, what would have remained would only be painful memories because people tend to regret things and blame themselves. Kazuki then asked Ayla if she truly wanted Tsukasa to go through something like that. That night, Ayla stared at the keychain Tsukasa had given her, recalling all the memories they had shared. She realized that she had once thought about letting go of all her happy memories with Kazuki. But in the end, all she felt was regret, even though those memories had been beautiful. Thinking about Tsukasa made her feel deeply sad. Later, Ayla went to see Kazuki, who was drinking alone. When Kazuki saw Ayla approaching, she smiled with relief. The next day, Tsukasa and the others were working at the office as usual. Ayla and Kazuki arrived together, and Kazuki encouraged Ayla to go meet Tsukasa right away. At that moment, Ayla looked nervous and shy. Michiru was surprised to see her. Ayla then gathered her courage and walked toward Tsukasa's desk. With a trembling voice, she said that she had something important to tell him right then. Tsukasa agreed to listen. Nervously, Ayla explained that when Tsukasa had confessed his feelings to her, she had considered stopping herself from creating any more memories with him. She believed that since they would eventually be separated, continuing to build memories would only make the parting more painful, especially for Tsukasa, who would be left behind and hurt the most. Because of that, Ayla had decided to distance herself from him for his own sake. Even so, she could not stop imagining how Tsukasa would remember her in the future. Tears began to fall as Ayla imagined Tsukasa feeling lost, lonely, and heartbroken because of her. She feared that he might lose all those precious memories, and she could not bear the thought of that happening. Unable to hold back her tears, Ayla began to cry, and their friends could feel her sadness as well. Ayla then said that she wanted to create even more memories with Tsukasa. She wanted him to remember that she had once been by his side. Holding Tsukasa's hand tightly, she said that she wanted to stay with him and continue making memories until the very end. She wanted to always be with him. Tsukasa responded by saying that he would always stay by Ayla's side. In that moment, Ayla expressed that she truly loved him. One morning, Ayla looked especially happy as she sat in her dorm room. reading her diary. While waiting for her tea, she continued writing in it, noting how happy she felt to be in a relationship with someone she truly loved. After that, she climbed onto the bed to wake Tsukasa, who was still fast asleep. Ayala quietly admired his sleeping face for a moment before gently calling his name and waking him up. Tsukasa slowly opened his eyes and greeted her, but he was immediately startled and pulled the blanket over his face. Ayala then realized that her outfit was slightly open around the chest area. Feeling embarrassed, she quickly turned to leave, but ended up tripping on the stairs. Tsukasa rushed to check on her, making sure she was okay. Ayala, still flustered, tried to cover herself as best as she could. Later that morning, they had breakfast together. With a shy expression, Tsukasa invited Ayala to have dinner with him that evening. Ayala agreed, saying she would be happy to go if it made him happy. Tsukasa thanked her sincerely. Ayala then offered to pour some tea, but accidentally dropped the cup when her fingers brushed against Tsukasa's. Tsukasa quickly grabbed a cloth to clean up the spilled tea. Afterward, they headed to the office together. Ayala mentioned that Tsukasa's favorite marjoram tea had run out, so Tsukasa suggested they go shopping after work. As they walked, Tsukasa slowly reached out and held Ayala's hand. However, Michiru, Eru, and Zack suddenly appeared and startled them. Both Tsukasa and Ayala looked embarrassed, especially as the others teased them about holding hands. Eru was surprised that she had missed Ayala's heartfelt confession and asked her to repeat what she had said when expressing her feelings to Tsukasa. Ayala looked annoyed and Michiru stepped in, telling Eru to stop because it was making Ayala uncomfortable. According to Michiru, confessing love during work hours was not something to praise. Zack then joked that Michiru had said the night before that she wished she could have such a romantic confession too. Hearing that, Michiru quickly denied it and scolded Zack. Eru cheerfully added that one day, a charming prince would surely come for Michiru, though Michiru brushed it off as teasing. At the office, Yasutaka casually asked Tsukasa and Ayala whether they had slept well the night before or if they had trouble sleeping. Ayala didn't quite understand what he meant, while Tsukasa turned red with embarrassment and clarified that he and Ayala had not even kissed yet. Yasutaka jokingly suggested otherwise, which prompted Tsukasa to firmly tell him to stop making assumptions. Ayala felt very embarrassed by the conversation. Sherry commented that Yasutaka's joke had gone too far. Yasutaka, however, insisted that there was nothing wrong with teasing them since they were officially a couple now. Sherry advised Tsukasa and Ayala to ignore Yasutaka's nonsense. Yasutaka playfully remarked that Sherry was as sharp-tongued as ever, but still his favorite partner. He then gave Tsukasa some advice, saying that one of the most important things in a relationship was to give surprises regularly. According to him, women appreciate romantic surprises and enjoy being treated like princesses. Tsukasa carefully noted everything Yasutaka said, though Sherry once again told him not to take it seriously. Yasutaka added that despite what Sherry said, she would probably enjoy a surprise too. Sherry then asked Ayala how someone could come to like their own partner. Ayala seemed a bit nervous hearing that question. Yasutaka joked that Sherry's words made it sound like she didn't like him at all. Sherry replied that Yasutaka was the kind of partner who wandered off during work hours, so it was only natural she felt that way. Yasutaka laughed and explained that he had been out on a date with Shoko at the time. Sherry was surprised that Yasutaka always managed to be punctual for his dates, and she dragged him away for a private talk. Before leaving, Yasutaka wished Tsukasa and Ayala a lasting relationship. Tsukasa and Ayala were still thinking about the idea of surprises when Kazuki suddenly appeared and asked what they were talking about. Startled, they quickly greeted her. Kazuki responded while firmly squeezing Tsukasa's shoulder before walking away. Constance later remarked that Kazuki was probably just a little jealous and told Tsukasa not to take it too seriously. As usual, Ayala prepared tea for Takao and Ren. When she noticed Ren's lunchbox, she asked if the meal prepared by his wife made him happy. Ren admitted that it did, as his wife always ensured the meals were nutritionally balanced. Takao commented half-jokingly that he felt envious since his own wife had not made him a lunchbox in 10 years. He then asked Ayala whether she would like to make one for Tsukasa. Ayala blushed and admitted that she had never made a lunchbox before. Kazuki suggested that she could ask Michiru for help, since Michiru was skilled at cooking. Hearing that, Ayala softly referred to the idea as a potential surprise. Meanwhile, Tsukasa asked Constance and Zack what kind of surprise girls usually like. Constance suggested giving a bouquet of flowers, but Tsukasa had already tried that before and it did not go well. Zack jokingly suggested sneaking up and tapping someone behind the knee, though Tsukasa pointed out that it sounded more like teasing than an actual surprise. Constance then recommended having dinner at a fancy restaurant, but Tsukasa felt that Ayala was not particularly interested in food like that. Zack brought up the idea of making a funny face, since Ayala was really good at it. Tsukasa clarified that he wanted a surprise that would genuinely make a girl happy. When he asked if Ayala was really that good at making funny faces, Zach said she could make her expression look completely distorted in a comedic way. Curious, Tsukasa even tried making one himself in front of Zach and Constance. Later that afternoon, Ayala invited Michiru to talk about Tsukasa. As it turned out, Michiru also had something she wanted to ask Ayala. After making sure no one else was around, she asked how Ayala felt after officially starting a relationship with Tsukasa. Ayala did not quite understand the question at first. Michiru clarified that she meant what changes Ayala felt before and after dating him. Michiru wondered if they had already shared a kiss, though she thought that might be a bit too soon. Since Tsukasa and Ayala had been living together for quite some time, Michiru could not help but wonder how close they had become. Unexpectedly, Ayala explained that ever since she and Tsukasa started dating, it had actually become harder for them to talk like they used to. Michiru seemed to understand how she felt. Ayala then asked Michiru to teach her how to cook. Realizing that Ayala wanted to prepare a meal for Tsukasa to make him happy, and hopefully help them reconnect, Michiru lightly tapped Ayala's forehead and commented that she was incredibly innocent. She promised to teach Ayala how to cook, which made Ayala smile with relief and excitement. When Michiru asked what dish Ayala wanted to make, Ayala admitted she did not even know Tsukasa's favorite food. She felt disappointed in herself for not knowing something so simple. After that, Michiru and Ayala approached Tsukasa. Michiru encouraged Ayala to ask him directly, but Ayala became too shy to speak up. Tsukasa, confused, wondered what Ayala wanted to ask. Michiru stepped in and explained that Ayala wanted to cook something for him, and she asked Tsukasa to share what kind of food he liked. Hearing this, Tsukasa suddenly remembered Yasutaka's advice about giving surprises to improve a romantic relationship. He began to suspect that Ayala might be planning a surprise for him. Realizing that Ayala might have thought of it first, Tsukasa admitted he would be very happy if she cooked for him, but he also felt it would be unfair if only Ayala prepared a surprise. He said he simply wanted to have dinner together with her. Constance suggested that maybe Tsukasa and Ayala should cook together. Both of them immediately blushed and looked at each other, making it obvious what they were thinking. Constance remarked that the answer was already clear. Michiru felt that they probably did not need her help anymore. Zach joked that maybe they should just continue staring at each other back in their dorm room. He teased Michiru, saying she looked a little jealous, which only made her annoyed. That afternoon, Ayala and Tsukasa were in the herbal garden room. Ayala said she liked the idea of cooking and eating together with him. Tsukasa agreed and suggested they do it that very evening. Ayala then asked what his favorite food was. Tsukasa answered that he loved omurice. Ayala teased him, saying his taste was a bit childish. The next day, Kazuki and Tsukasa met with Sarah, and Ayala introduced Tsukasa as her official partner. Even so, Tsukasa was still thinking about the surprise he wanted to prepare for Ayala. He noticed Ayala chatting with Antonio nearby. Not long after, Sarah approached him and asked if something was on his mind. Tsukasa then asked what kind of surprise would be good for someone special. Sarah quickly guessed that he wanted to surprise Ayala, which made him a little embarrassed. Smiling gently, Sarah said that simply being with the person you love is already the greatest happiness. She mentioned that Ayala herself had once taught her that lesson, and it seemed like that was the answer Tsukasa had been searching for. Sarah also commented that many guys can be a bit slow when it comes to understanding feelings like that. Back at the office, Tsukasa and Ayala talked as usual, but this time the atmosphere felt warmer and more romantic. Rain reminded them not to forget that he was still in the room, which made Tsukasa smile awkwardly. That afternoon, Tsukasa and Ayala walked together. They stopped by a herbal shop to pick out ingredients for tea, then went to a clothing store to buy pajamas. Ayala asked him to choose a pair for her. They also bought matching t-shirts, and after finishing their shopping, they headed home. On the way back, Ayala asked if he was hungry. Tsukasa admitted that he was, but he felt that food always tasted better when someone was truly hungry. He then shared what had been on his mind. Even though they were already dating, he felt like he had not done anything truly special for her yet. He had been thinking about ways to make her happy, but he was still unsure and could not decide. Ayala gently held his hand and told him that she wanted things to stay just the way they were. Living their days together as usual already felt special to her. Just being with him made her heart race so fast it felt overwhelming in a good way. They held hands and looked at each other with deep emotion. Around them, the lights of the amusement park sparkled beautifully in the night. Ayala wondered if the people behind those glowing lights were living their lives as usual, and whether she was one of them too. Tsukasa said that even just seeing a view like that already felt special. When they arrived back at the dorm, they cooked together. Tsukasa smiled as he watched Ayala struggle to crack an egg properly. Even though they had some trouble making omurice, the moment felt warm and special. Eventually, they finished cooking. The shape of the dish was not perfect, but it felt meaningful because it was the first meal they had made together. Tsukasa handed her the ketchup and Ayala tried to draw a heart on the omurice. Feeling shy, she quickly scribbled over it. He told her that it had already looked good. Embarrassed, she passed the ketchup back to him. Tsukasa then drew a big heart on his own plate. After that, they ate together. He took the first bite and Ayla watched him curiously, waiting for his reaction. Tsukasa said that the omurice tasted really good. Hearing that made her happy, and when she tried it herself, she realized it really was delicious. That night, Ayla went back to writing in her diary. Tsukasa became curious about what she was writing, and she asked him not to laugh before letting him read it. She had written that she spent the day with the person she loved. He smiled as he read it. She also wrote about everything that happened that day, from hearing about a surprise from Yasutaka, to asking Michiru to teach her how to cook, and finally making omurice together that turned out to be delicious. Tsukasa then asked how she felt about the day. Ayla said it had been exciting, fun, a little embarrassing, and memorable, especially because of the omurice they made together. He smiled and said that tomorrow would be another special day. Ayla said that he sounded like a little kid. Still, she hoped that tomorrow would be just as beautiful as today, as long as she could spend it with him. One night, Ayla started crying in her sleep. She woke Tsukasa, who had been resting soundly beside her. He stirred and gently asked what was wrong. Through tears, she said that she did not want to be alone. Without hesitation, she moved closer and held onto him tightly, as if trying to make sure he would not go anywhere. She was afraid of being left behind. Tsukasa responded by wrapping his arms around her and softly stroking her hair, staying with her until she calmed down. The next morning, Ayla still seemed to be thinking about what had happened the night before. Tsukasa prepared breakfast, and they sat down to eat together. He asked if his cooking had improved, and Ayla admitted that all his hard work seemed to be paying off. Tsukasa said that with enough effort, anything was possible. They shared a small laugh, and Ayla quietly enjoyed her meal. Tsukasa looked like he wanted to say something more, but hesitated. Instead, he asked again if the food tasted good, and Ayla simply smiled and gave a small nod to show that she liked it. That morning, they headed to the office together. Once they arrived, Zach mentioned that he was sure Tsukasa and Ayla would want to go see a movie. He handed them 2 movie tickets. Tsukasa was surprised, since Zach was not usually the type to give gifts. Zach admitted that the tickets were actually from Michiru. Hearing that, Michiru immediately scolded him. She insisted that Tsukasa should just accept them, saying that she believed he and Ayla needed some time alone together. She explained that she had gotten the tickets by chance and was too busy to use them herself, so she decided to pass them along. Not long after, Ran showed up with a resort hotel catalog and encouraged Tsukasa to make good use of it. Constance contributed a free meal coupon from his favorite restaurant and even prepared outfits for both of them, mentioning that the place recommended a certain dress code. Sherry also handed over extra tickets from a fan club she was part of. On top of that, Yasutaka offered to let them use his car, which had an autopilot feature, making it easy to use even though Tsukasa did not have a driver's license yet. Takao apologized for only being able to offer a coffee shop discount. Everyone at the office seemed genuinely supportive of Tsukasa and Ayla's relationship. Feeling a bit shy, Tsukasa finally asked Ayla if she would like to take a day off and go out together. The following day, they went to the movies. The film they watched was a romantic story, filled with emotional scenes about a couple spending meaningful time together. Both Tsukasa and Ayla were completely absorbed in every moment. After the movie, they sat on a park bench and talked. Tsukasa asked how she felt about her first movie experience. Ayla said that it was wonderful and that her heart was still racing. Tsukasa mentioned that she had been holding his hand from the middle of the movie all the way to the end. Ayla explained that she had been a little scared in the dark and worried about losing him, so she held on tightly. She wondered if he had minded, but Tsukasa reassured her that he liked it too and told her she could hold his hand as much as she wanted. Ayla then said she wanted to try something she had seen in the movie. She asked Tsukasa to rest his head on her lap. Although he felt embarrassed, she looked genuinely excited about the idea. Tsukasa slowly lay down, resting his head on her lap. Ayla's face turned slightly red as she felt the soft tickle of his hair, but she pretended not to notice his embarrassment. The two of them laughed quietly, enjoying the peaceful moment together. Ayla admitted that she often had trouble sleeping at night. She would start imagining things, like the fear of not waking up again or not being able to see Tsukasa anymore. However, those fears seemed to fade whenever she was with him. She told him that he meant a lot to her. Tsukasa gently touched her cheek and said that she could always rely on him. He then brought up the idea of what they should do next, joking that their co-workers would probably push them to take another day off. Ayla smiled and said she would be happy to go anywhere if he invited her. Tsukasa teased that her expression seemed to say otherwise. Even so, Ayla admitted that she would be happy if moments like that could last forever, but she also understood that her body would not be able to keep up indefinitely. The thought of her body no longer responding on her final day frightened her. Tsukasa suggested that it might be best for them to continue living their days as normally as possible. Ayla expressed her gratitude to him for everything. After that, Ayla continued her usual diving practice. Mikijiro told Tsukasa that there had not been any significant changes in her condition, and Tsukasa accepted that calmly. Soon after, Michiru and Zack arrived for training, with Michiru apologizing for being late. Zack quickly got ready to begin. While looking at Ayala's data on the monitor, Michiru asked if she had really come in for training that day. She found it hard to believe that Tsukasa and Ayala were still practicing even though they were supposed to be on leave. Mikijiro commented that Ayala did not really need to come in that often, but he allowed it, thinking it might help her feel more at ease. Nearby, Eru quietly admitted that thinking about Tsukasa and Ayala made her feel emotional. The next morning at the office, Kazuki called Tsukasa over to talk in private. Ayala noticed this and grew curious. It just so happened that Tsukasa also wanted to ask for his next assignment, since his only task that day with Ayala was to retrieve a giftja named Sarah. Kazuki then handed Tsukasa Ayala's retrieval form, which left him stunned. She explained that he had been assigned to carry out Ayala's retrieval. Kazuki trusted him with this responsibility and wanted him to focus entirely on Ayala for the time being. That day, Tsukasa accompanied Ayala as she took care of her herbal plants. He carefully wrote down everything she explained. Ayala went over how to care for each plant and how to harvest them properly. Tsukasa asked if she had formally studied herbal plants, since she seemed to know so much about them. Ayala explained that when she first started growing them, she had plenty of free time. She also shared that whenever people said her tea tasted good, it made her feel like she still had a place at the office. She quietly expressed her hope to grow even more plants in the future. From inside the office, Michiru watched the two of them. From then on, Ayala continued teaching Tsukasa about different kinds of herbs and how to brew a good cup of tea. Tsukasa also kept her company during practice sessions, though he started to look more and more downcast. One day after finishing a field assignment, Michiru returned to the office to relax. Suddenly, Tsukasa approached her and handed her a cup of tea, which she ended up enjoying a lot. Surprised, she questioned why he suddenly did that. Tsukasa explained that since he and Ayala did not have much work at the time, he figured he should stay busy. Ayala had been teaching him how to make tea, and he felt like he was getting pretty good at it. Hearing that, Michiru reacted loudly, unable to understand what Tsukasa was doing, and she criticized him for acting inexperienced. She wondered why he did not just take some time off, especially since the situation should have been obvious to him. In her opinion, instead of coming to the office, he would be better off spending that time with Ayala. Besides, no one would object if the two of them decided to take a break. Tsukasa responded that he and Ayala could not simply take time off. He appreciated the concern and support from Michiru and everyone else, but they had already decided to continue living their days as usual. He hoped Michiru could understand that. Kazuki then commented that Michiru had lost that argument. She believed Michiru was deeply worried about both Ayala and Tsukasa. Michiru denied it, but she was caught off guard when she noticed Ayala standing right beside her. Ayala gently held Michiru's hand and thanked her. She admitted that she also wanted to spend her remaining time at the office with everyone. Hearing that, Michiru found herself unable to object any further. After that, Kazuki told everyone to get back to work and not slack off. Still, Michiru could not ignore the deep sadness she saw on Tsukasa's face, and it pained her to witness it. That night, Tsukasa handed Ayala the retrieval form. He explained that Kazuki had asked him to get her signature. Ayala agreed without hesitation. Tsukasa asked if she was truly okay with it, but Ayala insisted that she wanted him to be the one to sign it. Tsukasa looked devastated. He admitted that, at one point, he had even thought about running away with her to somewhere far away. Hearing that, Ayala immediately embraced him and expressed that she felt sorry for causing him so much pain. With a heavy heart, Tsukasa finally signed Ayala's retrieval form. Afterward, Ayala hugged him from behind and thanked him. The next day, they were scheduled to retrieve Sarah. Tsukasa and Ayala had been working together for quite some time, but that assignment would be their last. The following morning, Tsukasa and Ayala set out right away for the retrieval location. After they left, Michiru informed the others. Tsukasa's co-workers then began preparing to carry out a plan together. Meanwhile, the atmosphere turned deeply emotional as Antonio's family prepared to say goodbye to Sarah. Before the separation, Antonio gave her one final heartfelt hug. The memory erasure process was then carried out by Ayala. As she began, Ayala gently whispered something into Sarah's ear, which moved her to tears. Sarah expressed her hope that what Ayala had said would one day come true for her as well. By the end of the day, Tsukasa and Ayala had successfully completed their assignment. Tsukasa felt relieved knowing that they had finished their final task, but Ayala pointed out that there was still one more thing left to do. Not long after, Michiru suddenly contacted them and asked them to return to the office, explaining that everyone was planning to hold a small celebration. She made it clear that they were not obligated to join and could decide for themselves. In the end, Tsukasa and Ayala agreed to attend. When they arrived, everyone was already prepared and warmly welcomed them. Shortly after, Kazuki showed up carrying alcoholic drinks. Tsukasa wondered if it was really okay to drink at the office, but Yasutaka did not see any issues since all the work had already been completed. Sherry playfully commented that Yasutaka had actually spent most of the day sleeping. Ran explained that everyone had intentionally finished their tasks early so they could throw the party, which was why they had been working overtime for the past week. Kazuki explained that since they were already off the clock, she allowed everyone to enjoy some drinks. Takao felt surprised, thinking that as the team leader, he should have been the one giving permission. He had even gone as far as formally requesting approval from Director Shinya, putting in considerable effort to make the party happen. Meanwhile, Eru prepared special orange juice for Tsukasa and Ayala, who chose not to drink alcohol. At that moment, Kazuki thanked Ayala for all her hard work at the office, and Ayala responded with a gentle nod and a smile. Kazuki then invited everyone to raise their glasses and celebrate together. They enjoyed the food and the moment, sharing laughter and happiness. To keep the energy going, Constance entertained everyone with a series of magic tricks. Sherry performed her signature fan club dance with incredible enthusiasm. Yasutaka lifted Zack onto his shoulders in a playful display, while Ren and Takao confidently showed off their strong physiques in a lighthearted way. Sherry and Nikijiro also sang together, making the party even more lively. Ayala watched it all with genuine joy, clearly enjoying every moment. Tsukasa felt happy seeing Ayala having such a great time. Michiru admitted that she had not expected Tsukasa and Ayala to actually return to the office. Tsukasa found that odd, since Michiru had been the one to inform him. Zack then revealed that although Michiru said it was optional, she had actually been the one who came up with the idea for the party in the first place. Michiru became visibly annoyed at Zack for spilling that detail, while Tsukasa simply smiled and thanked her. Michiru responded by saying that she already knew Tsukasa could not be relied on, which led both of them to laugh it off. Ayala quietly smiled as she watched her friends enjoying themselves and sharing such a warm moment together. After the party that night, Tsukasa carried Ayala on his back as they made their way back to the dormitory. He asked if she was feeling tired, but Ayala brushed it off and said she had simply gotten a little too excited during the celebration. Despite everything that had happened, she felt truly happy to be working at the terminal service and grateful to have met everyone there. That day meant a lot to Ayala, as so many memorable things had happened. She even felt excited to write everything down in her diary. Ayala shared that all the happiness she experienced was thanks to Tsukasa. Hearing that, Tsukasa wanted to ask her something. He mentioned that he had noticed how Ayala always whispered something to Sarah, and that she seemed to do the same to every Giftia at the end of the retrieval process. Curious, he wondered what she had been saying. In the end, Ayala revealed that she always expressed a simple wish, that someday each Giftia would be able to reunite with the person they loved. In the early hours of the morning, Tsukasa and Ayala sat together in the dorm room, chatting quietly. They flipped through Ayala's diary while gazing out at the night view beyond the window. Tsukasa asked about a girl mentioned in the diary. It turned out her name was Chelsea, someone who had once been Ayala's closest friend. He wondered where Ayala had met her. Ayala explained that she met Chelsea at a nearby park, where she often saw her taking walks with her dog. Tsukasa asked if Ayala liked dogs too. At that moment, their hands were tightly intertwined. Ayala shared how she used to feel nervous whenever she tried to pet a dog, only for it to bark at her instead. Tsukasa laughed and teased her, and Ayala responded by lightly pinching him. As Tsukasa turned to the next page of the diary, his expression shifted to sadness when he read about Chelsea's retrieval. Ayala had been assigned to carry it out. Tsukasa realized there were so many memories Ayala had experienced that he had never known about. Before long, the morning sun began to rise, its light streaming into the room. Ayala smiled softly as she looked at Tsukasa's face illuminated by the warm sunlight. She mentioned that it was their last day together. That morning, Tsukasa and Ayala were full of energy as they started their day by cleaning the dorm room together. Ayala took care of wiping the windows, while Tsukasa handled sweeping the floor, organizing their belongings, and cleaning the carpet. Once Tsukasa finished his tasks, he offered to help Ayala, but she declined, saying she could manage on her own. Suddenly, the ladder Ayala was standing on slipped, causing her to lose balance. The bucket of water she was using spilled across the floor. Thankfully, Tsukasa reacted quickly and caught her before she fell. Both of them felt relieved. Then Ayala suggested they get cleaned up together. Tsukasa was caught off guard when Ayala suddenly splashed a bucket of water onto his face. He quickly realized that her invitation had been a playful setup. Not wanting to lose, Tsukasa turned on the shower and sprayed water back at her. The two of them laughed as they splashed water at each other, enjoying the moment. Tsukasa had never expected that Ayala, who seemed so quiet, could be so playful. Ayala happily splashed water at him with her hands, surprising him again and again. Tsukasa smiled and asked her to stop, though it was clear he was enjoying himself. Afterward, they got ready to head to the office together. Before leaving, Ayala took one last look around the dorm room and placed a letter near a photo of their coworkers. Hand in hand, they walked toward the office, sharing a sense of happiness. Later, Tsukasa enjoyed a cup of tea while looking out at the scenery, while Ayala was busy writing something. They found themselves reminiscing about their time at the office, from their first meeting to the many days they had spent working together. Ayala finished writing several letters and placed them on her coworkers' desks. After that, they sat together, quietly enjoying their tea as they looked out the window. Kazuki arrived and was surprised to see them both there. Tsukasa greeted her and wondered why she had come so early, since she was usually late. Kazuki admitted she had a bad feeling, which was why she showed up earlier than usual, and it seemed her intuition was right. She questioned why Tsukasa and Ayala had come to the office that day. Ayala explained that even though it was her last day, she was still an employee of terminal service. Without hesitation, Kazuki took Ayala's ID card and remarked that without it, Ayala was just an ordinary giftia. Ayala asked for it back, but Kazuki refused. Ayala pointed out that Kazuki was being unfair, saying she had not changed at all over the years. Kazuki casually responded that it was simply part of her nature. Even so, Kazuki did not return the ID card. Ayala then expressed how truly happy she had been working there. Kazuki seemed puzzled by Ayala's sudden formal tone. Ayala continued, saying that despite all the ups and downs, she had experienced many meaningful and enjoyable moments while working at terminal service. Kazuki was visibly moved and wondered how Ayala could say something like that, considering she usually caused trouble. Kazuki then pulled Tsukasa closer and told him that she was entrusting Ayala to him. Finally, she urged both of them to leave, sending them off without hesitation. Not long after, the rest of their friends began arriving. Kazuki mentioned that she had already sent Tsukasa and Ayala off. It turned out the group had shown up that early just to see them. Yasutaka commented that everyone there had too much free time, but Sari pointed out that he was no different. Zack felt confused about why they even needed to hide in the first place. Michiru quietly wished she could at least say goodbye to Ayala, but Constance explained that doing so would only weigh heavily on both Tsukasa and Ayala's minds. Meanwhile, Tsukasa and Ayala were taking care of the plants together. Tsukasa then suggested going out for a walk and asked if there was anywhere Ayala wanted to go. Ayala responded with the same question in return. Tsukasa proposed that they both name a place at the same time, and if they chose the same destination, they would go there together. As it turned out, they both said an amusement park. They headed there right away, buying snacks, picking up various merchandise, and enjoying a theater performance that ended up leaving them soaked. They spent the day happily moving from one attraction to another, riding thrilling rides as well as enchanting fairy tale-themed ones. Every moment at the amusement park felt full of joy and excitement. At one point, Ayala noticed a mascot clown handing out balloons. Tsukasa asked if she wanted to go over, and although Ayala hesitated at first, he gently led her toward the mascot. Overjoyed, Ayala hugged the mascot and happily received a balloon before waving goodbye. Tsukasa watched Ayala's cheerful expression with happiness, though a quiet sadness remained visible in his face. Before they realized it, evening had arrived and Tsukasa's expression grew heavier. When asked about it, he insisted that nothing was wrong and encouraged them to keep exploring, since they still had rides to experience and food to try. With renewed effort, they continued enjoying the park together. As night approached, the entire amusement park lit up with glowing lights.